Alright, we're live. Let's go. Starting. Of course, this is Zeiss here, and let's see what the new season will be about. What the feedback from the PTR was.
Season 4 is going to be the biggest update we have ever made to Diablo 4 since it has launched.
Our focus on Season 4 is to really make a lot of evergreen updates to the core systems of Diablo 4.
In Season 4, we're ramping the intensity across the seasonal and eternal realms through a collection of new activities aimed at ensuring the moment-to-moment gameplay experience is as exciting and rewarding when Hal comes to Sanctuary.
Alright, let's see.
Season 4 item changes are some of the biggest changes we've made to Diablo 4 thus far.
We've never done anything like this. We are fundamentally changing how you engage with items, how you upgrade them, and along the way solving a lot of things that we've seen continually from our community that we agree with are pain points of our existing item system right now.
So in this new itemization system, we're focusing on narrowing down the scope of the base affixes. They're going to be a lot simpler, they're going to be fewer in number, so you can much more easily parse whether this item is useful for you, and if it is, then you can take it and further upgrade it and customize it to your own specific build. Tempering is a new system that allows you to really customize the gear that you find. In order to temper, you will need to go to the blacksmith and then choose the recipe that you wish to temper from, and then a random affix from that recipe will be attached onto your gear. Tempering recipes can be found from almost all of the content throughout Sanctuaries.
So you will actually be looking for tempering recipes that go directly with what you're envisioning. Maybe you're thinking, I'm going to play a frost sorceress. There are also going to be recipes that are more generic and maybe are just generally good for the sorceress, but you'll be able to choose which one you think is going to be most powerful with the build you're making for your class.
Okay.
We're making a pretty radical change to the Codex of Power in this season, based again on the feedback that has been coming from our players.
Now, every single legendary in the game
Because
will be
they don't
entered into
know.
your Codex of Power so that you can continually imprint the best possible version of that legendary onto your gear.
So going forward, there will no longer be carrying around all of these aspect crystals in your inventory. It's all going to be
I never
in the Codex
do.
of Power.
I store the items instead.
So part of the final system that we have is going to be greater affixes. What's a greater affix?
Yeah, that's the
Well, we
thing.
want to keep it compelling that there are some drops that are
Especially
even
if
better
it's
than
on
the others
DR.
when you're trying to get the perfect build at endgame. Because of this, in World Tier 4, and only in World Tier 4, when an ancestral legendary item drops, there's a chance the affixes on it can roll as greater affixes. These will roll with bigger values that are normally available for that affix.
Greater affixes
nothing
are
new there, I
fairly
guess.
rare, but they're not impossible to find. While leveling up, you're going
Yeah,
to be able
actually, you
to find
don't need
upgrades
to do
much
the
more easily
Tormented
with this new
Echo boss
system.
to get those. And the example here was Kill
Another
type,
part of
so...
optimization is going to be masterworking. Now, this is something really intended for that very high end game, again, World Tier 4. This is where a player is going to take an item, already has the affixes that they want on it, but now they go through a process of upgrading those affixes, getting
Yeah,
even
so
higher
it's
values on them.
instead of 5
Masterworking
times,
really
12
starts at
times.
level
That's
100.
a
Once
really
you've
good
already
idea.
completed your build and found some of the best items, you're going to be able to test your build against the powerful enemies of the pit.
The Pit is a new endgame system that has been
Which
added
doesn't
in
have
this
ladder
season
yet, which is
that
kinda
is going to
weird.
challenge players that feel that they have largely maximized their build.
By pushing into more difficult tiers of the pit, you're going to be able to unlock rarer crafting materials to masterwork your gear even further.
You're gonna have to play some of the hardest content in the game, but once you do, if you're successful, you can go and make those affixes even stronger.
I think that should be done in advance, like before.
In Season 4, we're ramping the intensity of the Hell Tides through the inclusion of a variety of new activities, the first of which is a doubling down and rise of the cultists' presence throughout the tide. You're going to be running through the Hell Tide, seeing the cultists just conjuring up swarms and swarms of demons, adding to that sense of manic and chaos that they're pretty well known for. The other archetype that we're adding is the presence of the Doomsayers, who were unfortunate
Nice.
to be caught out in the tide and basically just lost their minds to all of the mania going on around them. And lastly, rounding out the new activities are just the inclusion of the Iron Wolves. They're finally joining the fight. They could no longer stand in the sidelines,
Finally.
seeing the Hell Tides and Hell's forces intensify their assault on Sanctuary. As Season 4 players engage and progress through the Call of the Wolves,
are we gonna have those as
they'll learn
mercenaries?
more with the Iron Wolves, unlocking access to a vast assortment of rewards to accompany and
just
empower
rewards.
your Season 4 journeys.
Basically,
For
bullshit
able
content.
to stay
I
alive
mean, bullshit
long enough,
rewards.
They'll be paid a visit by the Hellborn, former heroes of Sanctuary who have aligned with the forces of Hell to attack the allies they once aligned with. Players who are able to take down the Hellborn will be acquiring the materials they need to engage with the new premier Helltide activity, the Accursed Rituals. Located in the Helltide,
This was actually
these Accursed
dangerous, I
Rituals are
already
pretty
mentioned.
much just,
The Blood Maiden.
botched rituals from
The dangerous
cultists,
thing
and
is when she
players
makes
will
you
be
vulnerable.
kickstarting for themselves, drawing the attention of all the nearby Helltide monsters in this kind of all-out battle. One of my favorite themes for these ambushes is the Hellworm. It's literally a giant hell slug beast that emerges from the ground and
I liked it a lot.
mobs at you. If you're
So
able to
glad
survive
it's not
that,
very
you'll be
dangerous.
paid a visit from the Blood Maiden, our brand new Helltide mini-boss and one of the ultimate challenges in the new experience.
So I think I'm actually most excited about this season because of what you're able to do with your old characters, how they can integrate with this new item game and take them to new levels of power with this system.
I think that the best part of this update is that you're going to be really empowered to build the character that you want to play. You're going to be able to pick
I highly
preferences
doubt it.
and enhance your character.
They
in a
pretty
lot
much
of new and
destroyed
interesting
player choice for hardcore. You have to do this and this and that, otherwise you're fucked. Simply put, that's it. But let's see what they changed based on the feedback, because the way it was totally sucked.
All right. We were just watching a video and
Literally
everyone
just finger gunning the
Yeah, just
screen for
finger
no
gunning the
reason.
screen,
Like-
and everyone's like, what are you doing, Adam?
Yeah, okay.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another Diablo 4 developer update live stream. My name is Adam Fletcher. I am the community director here for
What the
Diablo.
fuck happened?
I'm joined by this wonderful panel, plus an additional head, which we will call out. But
We only have 4 seats, so
Only
we
have
have,
4
to, we have to
seats.
swap people
So we have
around
to,
as we
we
go.
have to do the same thing we did during the PTR stream, which was like we swapped out like Joe Shelley and I put in Adam Jackson.
true.
Did my
So we're
YouTube
gonna-
stream
we're gonna play more
disconnect
Magic
again?
tricks
What the
today.
fuck?
But do you guys want to do a quick intro to yourself to the
looks like
wonderful
no.
Diablo community?
Sure, I'm Joe Pipora. I'm the associate game director for Diablo 4.
And I'm Adam Jackson, the lead live class designer for Diablo 4.
Hello guys.
Hello, I'm Colin Feiner. I'm the lead live game designer.
Awesome. And then we're actually going to be joined by
Who are you?
Derek.
Who are you?
Well, I already introduced myself.
Oh,
you just
sorry.
missed it because I'm
already screwing this up,
I
everybody.
know, terrible.
It's my first
But we actually have Derek who will be joining us as well. Derek, you just saw in the video prior talking about season 4. He'll be swapping in to talk a little bit more about Helltides later in this. But big stream here. We have season 4 coming up. As you guys saw earlier this week, it is Loot Reborn for season 4. And a lot of players actually got to experience it a couple weeks ago with PTR. PTR, this was our first Diablo 4 PTR. It was a massive undertaking from the team here, but it was really, really great to have players jump in early, check out season 4 and all the changes, and actually provide feedback. And so we have a lot to cover today based off of feedback that we received from players from PTR itself. So, but Joe, I know you wanted to jump into kind of talking a little bit more about season 4, how PTR went, before we jump into all the changes.
Yeah, happy to. So, okay, so last time we were on stream, we were actually talking about a lot of the changes that players are going to get a chance to check out on the PTR. So we think that went really, really well. It was even just having the week of time for players to like just jump in and just crush through all of the content, check out all of the new features, and get a lot of feedback, find a lot of bugs on the way as well. Was again super valuable. It's been really, really great for the team. We'll take a lot of this feedback, look at the tuning variety of features, and really make sure that we've got the best version of the season 4 experience ready when we get into the launch day. So in terms of like our big takeaways, first of all, really, really valuable across the board. Season 4, Season Loot Reborn was, as I mentioned during the PTR stream originally, was really our opportunity to go back and take a lot of the feedback in that we've been looking at since the launch of the game from 2023.
This art is so good.
Yeah,
Just
no,
wanted to call that
I
out.
do love the key art for this. This key art for season 3 was awesome
It's
as well.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes,
That's good as
so
well.
looking back at the thanks for disrupting my flow.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Jack.
David
All right, yeah,
Puz's
thanks so
art
much.
is amazing.
So yeah, like, looking back at the launch of the product in 2023, we've been getting a lot of really good feedback. You remember back in season 2, Season of Blood, we made a big change to like vulnerable damage and like the multiplicative damage that comes along with it. We made a change to the way the elemental resist work.
Which
Yep.
they
And there
should
were a lot-
not
there were a lot of
have.
things we had to do to make those changes like really shine through. There's like a lot of Paragon nodes that had to get updated. There were a lot of like legendary aspects that had to get changed. There was just a lot of itemization stuff in the background that we had to do to make those systems work better and lift up other things around them, like overpower, for example, to make that feel like it was in a better spot. So now that we're looking at like even when we were done that one big release for Season of Blood, we knew that there was a lot more that we wanted to do. Again, we've been thinking about. But there's a lot of work we need to do, like make sure that all of these things really all fit together cohesively. So, I mean, as people got a chance to see on the PTR, like the introduction of things like the tempering feature, which we're going to talk a little bit more in a minute, where you get to like introduce these new like affixes into items, and affixes you can't get on items anymore. The reduction affix count on items overall, so it's a lot easier to go and sort through 25 pairs of gloves in your inventory at any given time, where you don't really have those same situations.
That's
Reduce
true.
the number of items that drop in the
They
game
would-
experience
they did
overall.
well
Making
on
sure
that
that the
one.
items that are dropping are just more valuable and more likely to be upgrades for you, or something you could kind of like build into an upgrade. We introduced the masterworking feature, right? And Colin helped head a lot of these things up, right, during working with the teams. So they introduced the masterworking feature where players can continually upgrade items to increase the value of the affixes, and then at ranks 4 and 8 and 12, you get to like kind of crit on one of these and make them even better. There's a lot of things that were introduced. We added the new content type in the form of the Pit of the Artificer. It's like this new extremely deep and deadly dungeon dive players get to go into once they get into the like towards the end game, when you're getting to like 85, 90 for your character level. You're starting to kind of dip into that space, and that's where you go to get your masterworking materials, which feels really, really good. And we learned a lot of really great lessons from like Greater Rifts in Diablo 3, because we think there was some really cool content there. So there's some really, really fun things there. And then
also the Codex of Power updates. You no longer have to save all your legendaries all the time.
Codex of Power updates,
So
which
good.
I was like,
Yeah.
to be fair, I've been so excited about the Codex of Power updates. I've been teasing
That's
it for
like the best
6
thing
live streams. I feel like.
in the
Like
changes.
it's not like
It's so
before
good.
BlizzCon, I feel like I teased it at the end of a live stream. So it's just what it is. But again, super excited about the Codex of Power changes. That is very transformational. Like now, when Legendary drops on the ground for you, you just salvage it, you get that aspect, put it into your Codex, add the roll that you got, and you just get to use it in perpetuity. And we actually have some fun ways, we'll talk about later, how we're playing with that a little bit.
I have one problem with this. What if the item with the affix is actually good? What if?
As we go. So, I mean, all of this stuff and more, we made huge, huge changes to Helltide. I know Derek's we talked about in a little while, as he helped lead the team, did a lot of the work for that. And we got to introduce the season theme in the form of like Loot Reborn, and then the reintroduction of the Iron Wolves mercenaries the players will be working with during the course of the release. I know
So
that we
they are
showed a little bit of that
mercenaries.
a lot earlier.
Okay.
And I'm just really, really excited about the release overall, as this was an opportunity for us to work with like not just the season team, but also the live team, and like a lot of support from the systems groups. And there's a lot of things being done for the expansion that's coming out eventually as well, like Vessel of Hatred. So being able to like really organize teams and make sure that we're in a really, really good spot to like provide this really big update for the game has been very, very exciting. And the feedback, going back to the feedback from PTR was, again, really, really valuable. It was great to get players in there and to get those things taken care of. And we're going to talk about some of those things today. I know that some of this information has been like, we talked to like a few like press outlets, we talked to a few different people, and like some information is getting out there. But I want to make sure we can provide a little bit more detail, because I know this is the audience that wants to know like the real specifics. We're going to get into it, right? And we'll also have our Q&A as we usually do at the end, where we can get like answer some more questions the community might have as we kind of get through the whole thing. So yeah, that was at a high level, that's what we were feeling about the PTR, feeling pretty good about it. I'm happy to like maybe jump into itemization, or how do we want to go?
Yeah, I think the first thing we probably want to talk about is like the itemization changes that are in season 4 that people experience, which includes like the tempering, the masterworking stuff that changed in season 4, and of course all the feedback that we got from both tempering, masterworking, and what we are planning on doing based off of that PTR feedback for the launch of Season 4.
Yeah, that's the important part here
Yeah,
that
sure.
we care about, actually.
So I guess just starting off then with like high-level itemization. Like let's go back to like some of the goals that we had when we started like down on this. Started some of the work for Season 4. Now we want to make sure that first players were having an easier time comparing items in their inventory. It's actually one of the first things we started thinking about when we began discussing what we thought needed to change about itemization, because the experience in Season 3 and Season 2 and other seasons has really been like the player, you'll get into like the, you're running your high tier nightmare dungeons, you're getting lots of drops, you're sorting through all of this stuff. Like you'll have like items that are like, this is like a 904 eye power sword, and this is a 909 eye power sword. Now I've got like 6 helmets that all are like, or have a wide variety of affixes on them. We really wanted to, again, just to quickly hit this, we wanted to make sure that we had a lower number of affixes overall that could roll on different item slots. But those affixes were more like generically useful and stuff that you could really build around, as opposed to having lots of really conditional affixes going back to like the damage on Tuesdays joke. Like that's like,
the shirt that.
Well, now the joke will be successful tampering on Tuesdays.
It's always funny. So it's obviously
That's gonna be the new meme. Successful tampering on Tuesdays.
But the truth is, like, we
If
want
it
to make sure
rains.
that where we want to have conditional affixes in the game, we want to find places players would be able to opt into them in a very specific way. So initially, we want items that you're either really dropping for you to have more generic utility, just be more valuable for you overall, and also as a result of this, make it easier to compare those items. So one of the changes that we made is we actually reduced the number of affixes that can naturally roll on item slots. So like now, like a rare item can roll like 2 affixes, a legendary item can roll 3 affixes, but then later on, there's other systems you get to introduce. We'll talk about in a bit. It lets you introduce more of those.
Yeah.
And we did that, so it's just easier to go through things.
We also made all items post level 100 925, so you're no longer comparing like the designer number that's like 904 to 925. You're just focusing on what's cool about the item, which is the affixes.
Yeah, which is super important, because there's a lot of situations where like if you're level 100, like Blood Harvest might be a lot of fun, but Blood Harvest is still dropping like eye power 900 items for you, and at that point, why would you want to keep even Blood Harvest, which players really love? Like, why would you want to keep engaging with it if you can't get really good end game items from it? So now when you're like at level 100 and you're playing in Helltide, or if you're going through Nightmare Dungeons at like a regular, like a slightly lower tier, and you're fighting level 100 monsters or higher, you're always getting eye power 925 items. They might not all have all exactly the stats or exactly the rolls that you want, but you're always getting stuff you could actually potentially use.
Yeah, a lot of the things feel a lot better too, like gambling, right? Like now gambling is actually a really great source for targeting item slot, because all of those are 925 at level 100.
That's right. So like the obols that you've been sitting on, where you go and you just churn through a whole bunch of these at once, they didn't have as much generic value. Now they're a lot better, because you really can just like say, I am looking for a helmet, I am looking for a ring, and you can just go roll 10 eye power 925 rings in a row, and you have stuff to play with then at that point. So yeah, those were some of the high level changes we wanted to make with items, with regards to like making it easier to compare these things. Codex hits a lot of the inventory concerns that we'd have. We made changes to gems in previous seasons, so we didn't have as many of them clogging up your inventory as well. So we thought that was really, really good stuff. But then we knew that we wanted to make sure that that it wasn't just about we weren't going to add another tier of eye power to items. That wasn't the way to make itemization more interesting for players and rewards more interesting.
Yeah, when do we get more star spaces?
The core things that we really want to focus on is the idea that items have a journey. The best items have a journey, right? So when you get a really good item, it's about what the potential of that item is. What you can do with this item to make it really superior, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that's sort of to jump into tempering. One of the first features we had in terms of taking your item on a journey was this idea that we wanted hundreds of different affixes, and each one spoke differently to a build. We wanted you to be able to play sort of whatever class fantasy or build fantasy you had in mind, and manifest that through customization of your items. So we actually have some video, I think, of what the tempering feature looks like, and I can talk through some of the updates we've made from the PTR. So here you have, we're adding an offensive affix to the item. It's going to land on increased corpse explosion damage. It's like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
I think the problem with this is you can pick only one from category.
We've added a skip button, so you can skip through the flow if you really want to blast through this.
Hope they made it faster, because on the PTR it was
now
terrible.
that shows you exactly what affix it landed on and what the roll range was. And then we have some more exciting affixes that you're going to see here. For example, chance to cast bone spear projectiles twice, which I know Adam is your favorite because
Oh yes, I love more projectiles.
The balance bomb.
Don't
dropped
say
to
it
your
like
lap.
that. Everyone
It's
loves
so
projectiles.
great.
It is cool though.
It is pretty cool.
Like being able to like
But
enjoy.
whoa, Derek is here. So yeah, we did our swap. But Joe's still going to be here off screen. We just want to make sure that Derek appears here. Derek is our lead seasons designer, so he'll be talking a little bit more about Helltides later. Sorry to interject. Okay. Go ahead, Joe.
Now I'm off screen. So yeah, I think one of the really cool things about the tempering system in general is that like the manuals that we're introducing initially are just like the beginning of what we can do with tempering. It's opportunities to make like really weird and interesting new efforts.
That's good. That it's just the beginning.
Other updates.
Because
So
they
it's,
need
it's
more
something we can
stuff,
really
like
extend and do some
DR
really
and
good
more
stuff with.
things,
We
more weird
absolutely plan
stuff
on
as
more
well.
in the future. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, so a bunch of improvements to tempering
Yeah.
overall.
And a lot of these, again, these improvements in tempering from the skip animations to the previews and stuff like that that players will see were based off of feedback that we actually got from PTR. And so, again, huge shout out to the community for providing all that feedback for us so that we can actually get that in before the launch of Season 4. So, but with tempering, we also have masterworking, which is another new feature within Season 4 and permanently within Diablo 4 itself. So, talk us through a little bit about what masterworking is, and of course the changes as well that we're going to be seeing based off of PTR feedback.
Sure, yeah. So, the next step in your item's journey is to really take it to new heights. You've customized it, you found some base affixes you're really into, and we wanted to give you a way to essentially take some of these affixes to new levels. So you think about helms and CDR or cooldown reduction, or for example, that chance to replicate, your bone spear. We want you to be able to really juice those stats. So I think we have a video here of what that looks like. Overall, what we've really done is taken a look at the feedback. We got a bunch of feedback that it was tedious to upgrade these over and over. So we've removed the animation from ranks 1 through 3. We've kept the critical, upgrade. We have the animation still there, but you can skip it. Again, sort of in the spirit of blasting across everything that we do. So you can do that very quickly.
Okay, that's good.
Another piece of feedback that we
improves.
got was that part of the masterworking process allows you to reset this. And why do you want to reset this? It's because you want to hit that specific affix you're looking for. You want to juice a specific affix. And sometimes
I wonder how they did the reset
which
on
means you wanna
console,
reset
on
that
controller, because it was not
so
available.
part of the
on PTR.
resetting sort of requires you to get lower tier materials. You're going to get these from the pit. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But overall, we saw a bunch of feedback that it was really tedious to create like 1,000 caches and open up them in town.
Yeah, definitely, that was terrible.
The town is lava. We want to address that. So we've added multiple scales of material conversion to those caches. This is a short-term solution. We have something in the future planned. It's just not ready yet.
Multiple scale.
While
you
it's
could
not
have
the
just
perfect
awarded the
solution, it does get you
materials.
there a little bit quicker. There's multiple conversion rates of materials, so you can turn one legendary material into a much higher count of materials based on the tiers that we have in that crafting system. So again, not the perfect solution. We have something coming in a future update.
Cool.
Awesome. So yeah, a lot of changes coming for masterworking based off of feedback. Masterworking, of course, being a brand
At least they acknowledge it's not a good solution, but it's some solution.
that you'll have even after tempering and stuff like that. So yeah.
Let's say another thing that was brought up as feedback was about veiled crystals, right? Didn't we reduce the amount that you need?
Oh yeah, veiled crystals. That's a pain. That's the new souls.
Stuff we've done just overall.
That's the new forgotten souls.
Crystals is one of those things. So I'll talk about, first I want to touch on rare and magic items. That was something we made a change from Season 3 and Season 4. Legendary items are just generally straight up better than rare items now. And part of our goal there is really to ensure that players aren't sifting through sand, looking through thousands of items. We want to just call it out, like legendary items are legendary. At the same time, we acknowledge that there is some coolness to knowing that certain magic and rare items could have value to you, right? We don't have anything for Season 4 yet, but the design team is definitely talking about ways that we can bring this rarity back in a way that doesn't
If they let
diminish
us
our
upgrade that
overall goal
attitude.
of trying to reduce that sort of sifting through sand feeling, right? So in the meantime, they can be salvaged. They still have a use in the end game. But we heard a ton of feedback, to your point, Adam, on the veiled crystals. It's just like such a bottleneck, and it's like, God damn it, I have to pick a bunch of like yellow items up to do any of the cool crafting features. What the hell, Blizzard?
That's an actual player quote too.
Yeah,
I'm very sure it was.
Yeah. So what we've done is we've made it so that legendaries break down into equal amounts of veiled crystals, so you can just not pick up yellow items. It's just a bonus now. We've also made sacred and ancestral items break down into 2 and 3 amounts of salvage. So sacred items will break down into double, ancestral will break down into triple. So we're effectively tripling the output of a lot of the salvage here.
Okay.
And I know, one that was probably the most vocal feedback that we got from players. About,
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, like, I need more veil crystals. So I know that there's changes coming for that in Season 4 based off that PTR feedback. Another, probably maybe the second, maybe also the first topmost, our largest feedback piece that we got is around greater affixes and the visibility related to those. So there are changes going into that for Season 4. So, Colin, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we wanted.
Okay, let's see.
The
That's
dopamine,
important,
that was a big goal
especially in
also
the ground
as part
or
of,
in the
itemization.
inventory, in the
Just like
stash.
seeing
It
an
was
item hit the ground and just
really difficult to distinguish them.
So
That's really important.
So we actually have some video here to show
Okay,
what that actually looks
please.
like on the ground. So you can see
No.
here's the weirdly long named item with the
picked a
greater
good one for
affix.
that,
Yeah, right.
Unyielding Commander's sacrificial sickle.
I know, right? Yeah. So we have a 1 greater affix star. It'll go up to 3 or 4 if it's a unique item. Which
It
always
just
feels
has this
incredible.
thing.
So it shows up on the ground when it lands. And then if we can go to the next video, we actually have an indicator now when it is in the inventory.
Yeah, so you can see it.
Okay. But can we distinguish the ones which have 2 or 3? How?
I'm disappointed. I can't see like the pixels. It's not zoomed in. So that's been enormously helpful, and really, when you kill like Duriel or one of these tormented bosses and they drop a ton of loot on the ground, to see some of these have stars on them, it just is a feel great moment.
Yeah,
Kind of goes with the whole like not sifting through the sands. You clearly see that icon. You know that has value to
You want to
you.
know what's valuable.
Exactly, especially, and again, even on the icon itself, like in your inventory, you'll immediately know those are my greater affix items. And long gone are the days of the Roman numeral. We
Right. You don't like the designer solution?
We will miss it. It's funny. I think internally we knew like, oh, that's probably going to get changed. We had a few jokes about that. But
Yeah, but again, what about the items which have 2 or 3 greater affixes?
We actually, to touch on the veiled crystals, I think
what-
players are going to
what
want to know
did
this,
they
is
solve?
we reduced the imprinting cost of aspects.
Oh,
quite a bit.
nice,
So
finally.
that's really going to help the veiled crystals as well.
That's
I think it
a
went from,
really good
like,
change.
75
Zeiss
veiled
approves,
crystals to imprints
definitely.
on an ancestral armor to 16. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
huge.
pretty huge swing. You're just getting way more of your aspects on gear. It's a lot more flexible. So that
Yeah,
should
we
be-
really want people to feel like, and this is kind of the Codex of Power updates in general, which I'm really pumped about, is we want you to feel like you're able to re-imprint those aspects, and that it's something that you're not having a huge cost and huge barriers to doing, right? Because as you upgrade your gear, that should be part of your process, is like putting on their favorite affixes.
Yeah. So a lot of changes coming with tempering, masterworking, itemization, and I know. Did we have any other changes that you wanted to cover before we move on to the next section? I know Colin's got this novel in front of him, and he's like, "What am I going to
He
do?"
was a keeper of a lot of
Yeah.
our changes. Oh, one I would think is worth mentioning, Colin, you may want to talk about, is the masterworking. I remember we got a lot of feedback about the fail chance.
Oh, that's
Oh
a
yeah,
great
yeah.
one.
the fail
Yeah.
chance we took.
Yeah.
Funny
So we
enough,
made
that
some
was like
Slightly
the biggest
decreasing it would be great, like putting
That
it
was
in
the
house.
first bullet, and I somehow missed it. Yeah. So we definitely felt like there's a ton of feedback that the double random chance was just a little bit too much, and we agreed, so we just took it out.
Yep.
It's just
No,
upgrade the item. We adjusted the material costs a bit, but the
That's
field
not
chance is
good.
no
They
longer
should
there.
have kept it.
Awesome. Cool. Well,
They
thank you,
should have
Colin, for going
kept
through
it,
those
but
changes.
with,
We'll
like-
actually be back to Colin here later because he still has more to talk about from his
Better
novel,
chance,
the papers that he has
Joe, you
here
wanna swap
he
now?
prepared. We did want to jump into some of the class balance changes that are coming after PTR. Of course, with Season 4, we have
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of class balance
important.
changes
Yeah,
that
we
are
have a
on
lot
top
going
of all these itemization changes. And we got a lot of great feedback from players. So, Mr. Adam Jackson.
Very much did. Yeah.
Let's run
Another
through these.
barbarian,
So
Right,
basically,
the classic Adam Jackson slides.
yes, I love my slides. We have kind of 3 categories of things that I'm going to be talking about
Okay,
today.
yeah, that's
Again,
important.
thanks to everybody for playing on the PTR. We did get a ton of feedback. I'm not going to go over the specifics of everything that changed, but I'm going to go over kind of the categories of things just because there's a whole lot of changes. One of the first big ones was endgame survivability issues. So this is kind of talking about those people that went really far into the pit, and this is kind of something that's been happening on live as well that we wanted to address. And there's this phenomenon when you get really deep into the game and you're fighting high-level monsters where, you know, you'll hit a point where the monsters are kind of easy and you're able to blow through with your really powerful builds, and then you kind of get to a point where they start one-shotting you. And it can be kind of mysterious and hard to understand, like, what's going on, why did this happen? We've also had some issues balancing that kind of top-end survivability when you get to those hard monsters in the game. One of the reasons for this is that variability in player defensiveness has been really high traditionally. This is why when you look at the new items in the game in Season 4,
there's no way.
you don't see a
blood
damage
golem.
reduction very much at all. It's a very premium stat now that's really hard to get. And it's to help solve this problem of when someone is stacking all damage reduction versus someone who has none of it, their difference in effective health and survivability is really, really high. And so it makes it hard to balance the game. Another part that we wanted to hit was really armor. That armor is kind of a really confusing stat. It's not really well
no, it's
understood
not. There's a
I'm
formula.
Go over in a little bit how it works and what we're changing to kind of address both of these issues a little bit.
Nice. So hope they finally show us.
Is that some stats can get really high. You know, we added all these crazy awesome stats, and you can juice them with masterworking and crit them and all these things. And it allowed for some really crazy things on the PTR, which people love to post constantly at me. And to be clear, we like crazy things. You know, it's awesome to get powerful and have that fantasy. We do have to take into account things like combat clarity and computer performance to make sure that the game can still run very well for everybody.
That's good.
So we made some changes there to address that.
Nice.
You mean it's not fun to just not see the screen or the ground?
I think it is for a little while.
Yeah, of course, because
this
is not part of exile bullshit.
You can only see like patches of ground occasionally.
And when one player can do that, let alone when you get 4 of them in a group, it's great. And last but not least, balance changes and bug fixes. I'll be going over
like
some
I
of them,
said,
but
it's
there's
not
way
part
more
of
than what I'm
exile, so
covering
let
right
us
now
see
today, but
what's
just know,
happening on the screen.
We took a lot of feedback on balance, a lot of feedback on bugs. There were a lot of them that were reported, and we acted on a lot of them, and I'll give an example of some that we did. All right, so let's go into armor. So, brief history lesson or description of how armor works today. This is like when you log in, how armor is functioning. It's your stat for physical damage mitigation. So you know how you have your elemental resistance that caps at 75 and then can get pushed up a little bit? Armor reduces your physical resistance up to a cap of 85%. It can't go higher than that.
I already know the formula.
But what's confusing is the amount of armor that you need to get to that 85% cap is actually based on the level of the monster that you're fighting. And I gave some examples here. These are the actual numbers in the game. So if you have a level 50 monster that's hitting you, whacking you, then you need 5,265 armor, and then you'll be at that 85% cap. But then at level 100, at every level, like 51, 52, 53, that number is going up of what you need.
See, the formula
and
is
at
correct.
level 100, it's about 9,230, and then at level 150 monster, it gets close to 13,000, right?
Yeah,
and so
that's
what
correct. The formula is correct.
Kind of creating is that the player really never knows when they're done with armor, right? That number can scale up forever. It's kind of a hidden system under the hood. So when you're fighting these monsters, and they get way higher level than you as you scale into the pit or nightmare dungeons or whatever, you don't really know how much you need. And so this is kind of really contributing to that phenomenon.
We know exactly how much we need for level 200 monster. We need 16,464.
So in Season 4, a lot of it's going to be the same as Season 3. It's still going to be your source of physical damage mitigation. The cap is still going to be 85%. And you're still going to need escalating amounts of armor as the monster level gets higher. But what we're changing here, if we go forward a little bit, is that armor is now going to cap at that level 100 monster number. So that 9,230, you can write down this number. We're also going to later get into the tooltip. We couldn't get it in for the launch of Season 4, but we'll have it soon after. But it's kind of going to be like elemental resistance, where you get to this number, and then you're kind of done with the system, right? So armor is just another thing on your checkbox of things you want to do as far as defensive survivability. And once you get it, you're done. You can get it from gear, legendary aspects, and so on. Particularly in Season 4, I think this will be a little bit of an easy number to hit. We're not trying to make this super difficult or hard to do. It'll be very achievable for you when you're a level 100 player. So here we have a zoom in on the tooltip so you can see This player has, way above that 9,000 amount of armor that they need. They have close to 16,000. But you can see there, that it's capped out at that 85% physical resistance. And again, soon after the launch of Season 4, we're going to actually put the cap that you need of the number that you're chasing, because we want you to know what the goal is that you're trying to hit.
So that means they have a lot of room for optimization, right?
Correct.
Yeah, but again, that's on PC. What about on console? We can't hover on armor on console, guys.
So next, stat caps. So, now that we've introduced a lot of ways to get really high amounts of stats in the game, we want to kind of control for visual clarity, what a player can put onto their screen. So kind of similar to some caps we have already in the game, like attack speed or elemental resistance, we're putting some caps on cooldown reduction and the increased area size. It's really fun to get those giant frost novas that cover the screen, but when it goes like 2 or 3 screens away, it can get really noisy and messy. So we still want these stats to be really powerful and impactful, but just control a little bit the amount of insanity that they can bring. And one thing on this cooldown reduction cap, to be clear, this is not just CDR across the entire game. This is just capping what you can get from gear. So this is like the base cooldown reduction you get when you first cast a skill, what it's going to be. You can still get cooldown resets or additional cooldown effects from things like the skill tree or legendary powers that just reduce the cooldown of your skills as you do certain mechanics. This is just like the baseline cap that comes from your gear.
I think when we looked at the cap for area effect too, we tested it on Frost Nova and we were like pretty meticulous on what that cap should be, and it was still massive.
No, it's huge. Yeah. When I say like we're making a cap, you're still going to get to insanity when it comes to what's on the screen. It's going to be awesome. So you can see here, this is just showing you what the tooltip looks like now. So we're going to be showing you, as a player, what those caps are, so when you're evaluating your gear on your tooltips, what it is. And then same thing here, you can see here, like the dust level area effect size bonus, it caps at 100%. Next, balance updates. So again, like I mentioned before, we made a lot of balance changes based on feedback. Again, thank you for playing and giving us all that feedback. I'm going to go over some of the things. One of the bigger categories of things was, again, like I mentioned, those changes due to combat readability and balancing player power. A few examples here of things that we're reducing are like the amount of dust levels that can be on your screen, and fractured winter glass, one of my new
fortified damage reduction
increased. That's pretty good. Is going to be reduced a bit, so I want to prepare you all for that. Again, to be clear, you're still going to spawn a whole lot. It's just not going to be like insane amounts where you can't see things anymore. They're still going to be very powerful. I'm even going to show a video a little bit later of kind of the difference of PTR to what's going to ship in the game. Some other things though that we're doing, Fortify. We wanted to increase the amount of damage reduction that you get. This is just Fortify across the board, the base mechanic. That DR is going from 10 to 15%.
It should be 20, I think.
Before, when it was at 10%, we had to take into account that players get damage reduction from a million different sources throughout the game. Now that it's more rare and more premium, we can actually make this mechanic in the game a little bit more impactful and feel like you're a tankier player for opting into this, these kinds of builds. We also made a lot of tempering affix updates. I'm not going to go into detail them, but just know like what you saw in PTR and what's going to ship, you're going to see a lot of improvements, a lot of balance changes, even some shuffling around of the affixes to make them in ways that make more sense based on feedback. And then we did do some class changes as well. I'm only going to give very few examples here, but just know that there were quite a few. One is Druid players. Companion Druid players always harass me. They want that build to work, and I agree. It's really cool. So we increased the health of Druid wolves by 200%, and we also reduced the respawn rate.
That's a good change. I remember they died a lot.
We got feedback basically that their companions were really good and fun and did damage, but in the late game they just kind of died and couldn't survive. So we're doing this to kind of address that feedback.
Not to mention the end game.
All right, so here's dust devils as an example. So you can see on the left, this is just one barbarian by themselves, the amount of dust devils that they could produce, right? And then on the right, you can see kind of the same barbarian. You can see like the dust devils around the areas where the enemies are, they're still getting hit by a ton of them, but it's not covering the entire screen, right? And especially when you get like 3, 4, many players together.
I think it's still a lot.
It really becomes insanity.
Yeah, it's
too much.
You're in a party of 4 barbs.
They could have reduced it a bit more.
Like, everyone's a barb.
Too much.
I don't know where I'm walking.
Yeah, and other classes can do that kind of thing too, not just barb, but this was kind of a good example. So, this is kind of seeing the difference between PTR and live. And then next we have another class change, so Scoundrel's Kiss. This is another one of our new uniques that rogue players gave us a lot of feedback on. So a quick summary of how this new unique works is it kind of changes your rapid fire skill from shooting straight and hitting a single enemy into kind of a mortar skill where you shoot up into the air and then your arrows fall on the ground and explode. It's really, really cool, but one of the pieces of feedback we got was that when you launched the arrows, they would kind of go in a line and they wouldn't all hit the same enemy anymore. So if you were trying to single target damage, it could actually be a nerf unless you like walked right up to the enemies and shot them. And while there was a way to play around it, you know, players weren't really happy that like we transformed the skill so much that it went from a range skill to kind of a melee skill. So we made an update here, and we have a video of the before and after. But basically, you can see on the PTR on the left here how, you know, it goes in a big line, and then the player has to run right next to the target dummy to do the full damage to it. And on the right now, you'll see basically you target where those arrows are going to drop, and they just all go to that area. So you can hit a single enemy, but you also hit all the enemies around it because the arrows explode. So it should be a lot more usable compared to before.
Can Scoundrel's Kiss ricochet with my rapid fire?
I'm pretty sure, yes, it can. So it does all the things and inherits all the things that your rapid fire does.
That's very cool.
But
I don't see it doing that.
I'm pretty sure it can, just like everything else. Yes. Yes. Spam everywhere.
Yes.
We love spam. And last but not least, bug fixes. Like I mentioned before, there were a whole lot of bug fixes reported to us. Thank you all for getting them. We addressed pretty much every single one that was reported. I'm giving some examples here, but again, we got a lot more than what I'm showing on the screen. One was Druid's Hurricane was incorrectly scaling damage basically infinitely, so we fixed that. Evan Piercer, the extra missiles from our new unique, they incorrectly had 100% lucky hit chance, which is proccing a lot of crazy stuff. And then Flame Weaver, another one of the new things we introduced in the game.
They didn't talk about this extra damage though.
You put a firewall on the ground and then you shoot firebolts through it and it'll split the firebolts.
That would solve it.
Really cool fantasy. But what happened in the PTR was you could stack a bunch of firewalls right on top of each other and they would split the firebolts multiplicatively and add more and more, way more than intended. So you could fire a ridiculous number of firebolts which were crashing servers and things. So it wasn't great.
Yeah, PoE style broken.
Properly. And again, you know, we're still discovering and working on other fixes. There were a lot more that went in. If you reported it, it was very likely fixed. So basically, the build will be in a much better, stable state once we launch. And that's really due to all your feedback, so thanks again.
All right.
And yeah, that's my section. So.
A lot of changes coming to classes. Class balance feedback we got from PTR was really, really great. You know, we were able to make so many different changes there, of course. Some of the biggest ones, like the readability stuff that we probably saw, seeing the initial videos of like the dust devils everywhere, was
I think it's still too much.
Also being in a party with like I was playing PTR and being in a party with like two barbs and like another like necromancer. I was like, oh okay, like what's going on right now?
Yeah. PTR is, you know, one of those things you get to see things in development state. I will say these kinds of things are actually pretty common when we're developing anything. Is being able to create these crazy situations, and we have to fix it for the game before it goes live. So, you know, that's kind of the advantage of PTR is players can find these things. You know,
exactly.
There's a lot more manpower being put into it.
PTR was super great for us to have, and you know, thanks again to the community for the feedback on all the class balance changes, and thanks Adam for walking us through that.
Yeah.
The next thing we do want to talk about is with Derek over here. Derek is actually going to talk a little bit about, of course, all the immense Helltide changes. Probably one of the most popular features and
that's going to be important because
introduced
probably lots of the leveling will be done there now.
Being able to experience it. Of course, we got feedback based off of players jumping into Helltide, and we do want to go through all that with Derek. And then we also want to talk a little bit about the season itself with Derek. So, Derek, want to jump in?
Yeah, I hope it's just not
Helltide. As you mentioned,
give us something.
The players who joined us from the PTR or caught all the various like blog and video posts and whatnot know that with Season 4, we're introducing permanent upgrades to the Helltide experience. Heavy focus on improving and enhancing, I guess, monster density and activity variety. So there's a ton more things to do in the Helltides, and as a result, there's just a ton more monsters to mow through in the Helltides. There's also some explorations, and just to double back real quick, these are all permanent across both the seasonal and eternal realms, so they're not going away once Season 4 ends. This is just how Helltide works.
Part of the game. Yep. Kind of like our item updates too, right?
That's a good update then.
We live in.
Yeah. This is Sanctuary. But there's also, if you kind of look at the top right of the screen, the threat system. So the longer you're fighting in the tides, you're going to be accumulating threat, which just results in even more monsters ambushing you at higher frequencies than monster packs. I think the personal favorite, and think fan favorite, is the Hellworm. This giant demon slug bug that just pops out from the ground and just vomits monsters all over you. But kind of with all those, the seasons, as we say a lot, are an amazing opportunity for experimentation. And sometimes the best results of those experimentations are when they can inspire permanent upgrades and just enhancements to the base game as a whole.
Yeah.
So that's where the
They
Hellborn
should keep
and
most
the
of the
new
seasonal
Cursed Ritual
stuff
and
in the
Blood
game,
Maiden
I
come into
think.
play as part of the new Helltide experience.
And nerf the Blood
Yeah, look at
Maiden.
those look rad.
Yeah, so
That's
So the
amazing,
Hellborn,
yeah.
as our Season 2
That's
players
really
might
well
recall,
done.
we introduced the Bloodseekers. And those were really cool monsters based on class archetypes. So you're kind of like fighting vampiric shadow versions of yourself. And we take a look at that content, and we just love it from like the team perspective, and just find like, hey, we're upgrading the Helltides. This is a perfect piece of content to just include with it. So that's where the Hellborn came into play. You know, they're fallen heroes of Sanctuary. They've been overtaken by the corruption from Hell, and kind of turned against you. Kind of in line with that, the Accursed Ritual and the Blood Maiden. In Season 2, with the Bloodlures and the Bloodseekers, we introduced this concept of, I guess, calling it just like open world social boss summoning. We followed up with like the there's a buzz right there.
Yeah, it's very catchy.
Rolls right off the tongue. I love it.
I get into my designer speak sometimes, but and we followed that up with like
So
the Mountain
Diablo will
Spawner
walk
Zone,
the earth
Season
again?
3. And again, looking at these really successful experimentations from previous seasons, we love opportunities to bring players together and just add that
But
extra
just
layer
look at this.
to the
Look
Hellcat
at how
experience. So that's where
powerful she
the Accursed
fucking
Ritual
is.
comes into play. So
Just
as you're out fighting against the tides,
too much,
you'll be
I
collecting
think.
the new material, the Baneful Hearts, that you can bring to the Accursed Ritual. It takes 3 to summon up the Blood Maiden, and you can do this, by yourself, or you can partner up with some buddies and all, I guess, contribute to the summoning together. And the Blood Maiden itself is our new Helltide mini boss. That she's immensely powerful, but also very, very lucrative. And I think the last thing forgot to mention is that this is all expanding into World Tiers 1 and 2 as well. And kind of like a distilled, not diluted. So the Helltide in World Tier 1 and 2 is more specifically tuned to, I guess like meet the leveling needs, or the needs of the leveling player.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, on the Blood Maiden, I remember you had talked about with me before that the people that summon the Blood Maiden actually get bonus loot drops, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can either contribute just by yourself to the Blood Maiden and get some extra loot for your troubles. We want to make sure that we give you a little bit extra. 'Cause
it
you're
was not
sacrificing
worth
your
it
hearts.
from what I
But
remember.
also, every player that it doesn't stack, so you're not stressed to say, hey, I just need to be the one that summons them all. We can all party up and just deposit our own baneful hearts and I guess reap the benefits of that.
Yeah.
Right.
To be clear, so if you put in all 3, you get bonus loot, right?
Correct.
But like you, me, and Colin are in a group, and like I put in 2 and you put in 1, do I get more loot than you?
No. So you get the same amount of loot. So if Colin has a baneful heart to deposit, if we all dump them in together, then
we all get the
get the
bonus,
shared
right?
benefits of that.
Got it,
But
okay.
I will touch on a bit later the PTR updates and just some of the enhanced value that the Blood Maiden received since PTR for both contributors and non-contributors to the summon.
Awesome. Yeah, so a lot of new stuff coming in for Helltide, and this is all part of the stuff that players got to experience in the PTR. And of course, we got learnings from the PTR, as you just mentioned.
Many.
Do you want to walk us through some of the changes that are coming in with Helltide for all the PTR feedback that we had?
Yeah, I think I have a PowerPoint of my own. Let's see. There you go. Look at that. Yeah, so, as mentioned, tons of sweeping changes going into the Helltides and just overall balance of the game in general with Season 4. And kind of with that, sometimes, we push a little bit too far in some regards. So we did get feedback and also just own internal kind of field checks on the Cinder drop rates were feeling a bit slow in the PTR. So we just went back, reviewed it, and gathered our feedback and just iterated on the drop percentage to hit closer to the expectations of how much we want to be collecting the cinders and interacting with the tortured gifts. So I think we're in a much better
That's
spot.
why we
I
go
know we're in
there
a much better
to
spot
get
right
the
now, actually.
Forgotten Soul.
So that was one of the first major pieces coming out from the PTR.
A lot more chests from this, yeah.
Yeah, chest, more loot, more fun.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Let's see the
definitely.
next one. Yeah, so on the topic of more is more fun, the Baneful Hearts, we were noticing that they were dropping a bit inconsistently. So you can get
No,
the
it should
Baneful
do when
Hearts
you open
from
a chest.
opening tortured gifts,
Yeah.
killing the Hellborn, and one of the Doomsayer variants, one of our new activity types.
Okay.
But again, we want to get the Baneful Hearts in the hands of the players with a
Yeah,
pretty
but if they don't use
steady
the Blood
cadence.
Maiden, that's
So we
probably
noticed with the
something many
PTR
people
that we're
gonna
just
skip.
not gaining them as frequently as we
Are
wanted
vulnerable,
to. So we
or
just
playing
went back,
vulnerable or
iterated,
very dangerous.
kind of reviewed our bad luck protection to just ensure that we improve the consistency that Baneful Hearts are dropping. And this is all kind of like the Blood Maiden is not meant to be seen as like this highly ambitious piece of content that you only engage with like once every 50 levels. We want
I
you
didn't
getting
know
the
we
hearts.
can
We
actually
want you
stack
engaging
those.
with the social boss summoning mechanic.
Didn't they
and,
disappear after
I think it
Helltide
just
ends?
adds that extra layer to the Helltides we want
It's
you to
not
engage with.
itemized, actually, as far as I remember, no?
And on the topic of the Blood Maiden, overall, like we touched on earlier, the Blood Maiden is just seeing some overall rewards improvements. So, as noticed, or as mentioned before, if you contribute to the summon of the Blood Maiden, you receive a bonus reward. But one of the things was that you couldn't really tell. There is a little icon that appears like where your buff bar, but the effects of that
Yeah, it
was
doesn't
largely
really tell.
unnoticed from both the team and actually just the PTR players themselves. So again, taking this opportunity to just review the overall value of the Blood Maiden for contributors and non-contributors alike, because again, we wanted to make sure that she has a clear role in the Helltide experience. So
Yeah,
again,
killing
overall, Blood Maiden
people.
is just overall more valuable. With this, we're dropping things like legendaries, Forgotten Soul, lore Zermats, and a % chance for contributors at world tier at the end world tiers
End-game
to
boss battles, okay.
get some end game boss materials as well.
Yeah, so this is now like an additional opportunity.
Well, if
for
it
players
has
to get
very high
additional
chance to die there, I
boss
don't think
mats
it's
for the
worth
boss
it.
ladders.
Yeah.
Which we've heard a lot about how players were like, hey, we only really have one kind of method to get them, and we wanted to expand that and bring that into more avenues so players didn't have to just kind of be like tunneled off into one area to get like specific boss mass, which is cool.
Yeah, variety is the spice of life.
Yes.
I like that the contribution encourages you to actually use these. In Season 2, I'd just chain summon the boss over and over and over, and there would be this awkward
what?
dance where someone
Wait,
would show
what,
up
what,
and
what?
it's like, I know you
What did it show?
can
Wait.
summon the boss.
Doomsayer chest of Doomsaying variants now just explode into the premium loot directly. Oh, okay. Less things to do then.
Over and over and over, and there would be this awkward dance where someone would show up and it's like, I know you have
Yeah, the
material.
waiting game. Like,
use your
use
material.
Yeah, and that's why it's really also important that the nuance is honestly lost pretty frequently when we're talking about like drops for different kinds of creatures in different sorts of situations like this. Like Treasure Goblin, we talked about Treasure Goblin a while ago, a few seasons ago.
Yeah, now they appear
put a
in like
poll out on
several
X.
instead of just one.
.com.
So
At one
weird
point,
to say.
basically, I put a poll out basically asking players what they believe the legendary drop rate of Treasure Goblins to be, and I had a whole bunch of options. And I think like 85% of the players were wrong. And because the drop rate at that time was 50%, players didn't feel it because they didn't see the Treasure Goblin enough to really notice that it was actually that high. So I think making sure that like we're like buffing up those moments where like if I have my contribution bonus a little bit higher, that helps make sure that is felt.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what's funny is Joe talking off screen, and we're all looking off, and people are just staring us stare into this random corner and stuff.
Yeah,
what would
he's
be
right.
funny is
We
We
did,
all
like, the
just actually
office.
looked back there at Vale. We should have planned
Every
that.
time, it's
Yeah,
like,
every
yeah,
time.
Joe.
And then like Joe's turned into Vale. Oh.
Actually, I'm literally coming out of the corner.
Oh, that's awkward.
That wasn't part of the plan.
I like the deep shadows.
That's where he is.
It's just lurking. Oh man.
I guess the moments when I decide to say something, maybe they'll occasionally become.
I was like, oh, we have another camera. Awesome. Cool. So a lot of Helltide changes that we have coming into.
Yeah,
to
I think
the
there's
game.
actually
And
one more
yeah,
slide.
I'm pretty sure we have one more.
So one thing that we've kind of covered a lot
Looks like Adam's
across like just
upbringing
tempering and
is
just
really
the
good.
masterwork and just the spirit of season 4 in general.
Very
Just
well
like
behaved
removing friction points and just
person.
keeping players in the flow, the flow of fun.
People want to blast.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the Doomsayer variants, and again, like the Doomsayer's new activity type, is kind of like a Kinder Egg surprise where you interact with them, they crackle and pop.
Okay,
into
so
something,
they
a
get
variety
it
of
for
things
now.
actually. So one of the variants that
I
we had
see.
was the chest of Doomsaying, where they would explode into a tortured gift that costs 50 cinders and gives you a whole lot of good stuff. We're kind of reviewing that, and sometimes what can happen is you
Still
can
think
encounter
it's too
one of
much.
these at the very start of your Helltide run, and you don't have 50 cinders. It's not a lot to get, but it still is kind of a stressful, potentially feels bad moment. So we just said, hey, let's just have it explode into the loop
That's probably
directly.
more of
You
a
save
like
50
tier
cinders,
1
and
and
you
2
kind of just
thing.
keep going on your merry way in the tides. So that's one of the kind of like efficiency smoothing outs that we've done. The next one is also just we're dumping a whole bunch of monsters on you, and it's always a feel bad moment when you get knocked out of an interaction. You're trying just to open up the tortured gift and head out. So we reduced the channel time to open tortured gifts from 3 seconds to 1.5 seconds, I believe, for Season 4 launch proper.
Should be 0.75, like the other interactable fucking dungeons and stuff.
Why don't we just make it instant, right?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, we kind of do want to safeguard against like the accidental clicks. Again, it's a frenetic game, so you're clicking a whole bunch, and I think 1.5 seconds is enough time to let you make sure that that's what you want to commit to before you open it.
And there's also
that's a good idea,
actually. There's changes to like the channeling, like I think with like dot damage and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, dot damage now won't interrupt channeling as well, which I think is a pretty good.
Does it interrupt it now? Because that was really annoying.
As you are in the frantic areas of Helltide and everything. So lots of Helltide changes, a lot of good feedback from players from PTR. Derek, thanks for walking through on that, but you're not done yet.
They didn't say anything about nerfing the Blood Maiden though.
As you guys know,
so that's probably something we should avoid in the first 3 tiers.
Helltide includes the Iron Wolves, and some people have figured that out even before our blog on Tuesday.
Yeah, because they leave it on the code.
We did want to talk a little bit about Season 4 and the Iron Wolves' participation in that, along with some cool things that are specific to seasonal characters for Season 4 as well.
Yeah. So again, as mentioned, the players who joined us in the PTR, or again, caught all the various blog posts, will notice that the Iron Wolves are now a permanent part of the Helltides. They're fighting and dying alongside the players now, and they're here to stay. However, for our seasonal players, we have the Call of the Wolves seasonal activity, where players will get to spend a bit more time with the Iron Wolves and go on a bit of a journey with them to try and uncover the potential root cause behind these rising tides and uncover this mysterious phenomenon that's threatening to corrupt and consume the Iron Wolves from within. In addition to that, again, the Iron Wolves are in the Helltides with you. As players are fighting and dying alongside the Iron Wolves in the Helltides, you're also going to be earning your way through the Wolves' Honor reputation system. And this is seeing you progress your way through a collection of just super juiced rewards that are specifically tuned to overpower your leveling journey from level 1 to 100 and beyond.
Okay.
The main pillar for this reputation track was really pushing the player's powers forward. The player power forward. There you go. The player's power forward, and giving them early access to gear with juice stats, legendaries,
and
materials,
build enabling uniques. Looks
and
like
even a resplendent spark as like a cherry on top at the end.
We love the juice.
We do love that. But, in the spirit of wait, there's more. Those are all like the gameplay related things, but we also have a couple of really cool cosmetics that you earn through the collective Call of the Wolf seasonal activity. So this is the Iron Wolf Mount Trophy, the little Iron Wolf banner. And, a little bit fast, but so the Iron Wolf Mount Trophy, we're doing it live here. That's earned from completing there it is.
I think that what they should also do
the reputation
is
track,
include some stats on these
Blood
things.
Maiden head is earned by completing the associated
Or like different stats on different horses,
Awesome.
right?
Yeah, those look really great. And of course, as you mentioned, Resplendent Sparks.
To actually make sense choosing a particular
there's
horse.
one other item that I know we wanted to talk about with this season specific, because it is specific for Season 4. And
Yeah. Thanks for the reminder on that. There's so much to cover.
I know. Derek has like the largest list of items to kind of go through here. So
as mentioned before, on the seasonal team, we love our experiments, and I don't think a season would be one without some level of experiment. So with that, we have the seasonal item, or as kind of like call it the seasonal toy, and that's the Profane Mind Cage.
Okay, let's see.
So there it is. So the Profane Mind Cage is pretty cool in the sense that it's a guaranteed drop from the Hellborn, and when you consume it, I kind of like to imagine you just like eating this demon brain.
Yum.
When you consume it, for the next 60 minutes, the Helltide monsters are going to be boosted up to 10 levels, depending on the world tier that you consumed it in. And you're also going to be increasing their aberrant cinder drop rates. So, again, all tying this back to that leveling journey.
Is there a cap? Like how many of those we can use?
This is a really fun item that lets you kind of put your build to a little bit more of a test in exchange for maximizing your Helltide efficiencies through, just one, higher monster level means more XP and stuff like that, and also just aberrant cinder drops too.
Yeah.
And-
We also.
oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead,
I was just
Colin,
gonna say we juiced the World Tier 2, 3, and 4 XP, so
That's
yeah.
ties
Yep.
super well. You can just get to blast to endgame very quickly now.
Yep.
Yeah, and with the mind cage itself, like, because everyone's probably going like, well, that's a consumable. Like, how do people end up like obtaining additional ones of those, or can you get more of those throughout the season and everything?
Yeah, we want to be very generous with those.
Let's
So
see.
one, they're a guaranteed drop from the
That's a
Hellborn
problem.
in World Tiers
They
3
wanna
and
be
4.
generous with
But you
them.
can also use them in
Because
World
the
Tiers
XP
1 and
cap
2
is
if
like
you
up
wanna,
to
like,
10
boost them,
levels.
alts
Above
and
that,
whatnot.
it's just same XP,
You also get
just more difficult.
I think like a bucket of them through the Wolves Honor reputation. Like we crammed as many rewards as we could in there. So
Well, if we
they
use
will be in
one,
steady
they're
stream.
13
So,
levels above the
again,
character.
In the spirit of
So-
like use it, don't hoard it. Definitely experiment and have fun with this thing because it's a game. Have fun.
Yeah, so it's great. Like, if you want a little bit more of a challenge, a little bit better rewards as well, you can of course use your mind cage, and that is exclusive for players in the season. So yeah, it's awesome to see. But yeah, thank you, Derek, for walking us through all the changes with Helltide and of course some of the new season stuff with the Iron Walls. And if you're a lore nerd, Iron Walls
So
of course,
there's
are
no
very familiar
specific
faction within
season
Diablo. They are from
theme, like
Diablo
seasonal
2
quests?
and 3. You
There's
could actually
not
hire them
much.
as some of
That's
your
weird.
mercenaries, or one of the mercenary options, though we know a lot of people went with an Act 2 mercenary in Diablo 2 for the aura. But yes, cool. Thank you so much, Derek. And of course, we still have more to talk about. We're actually going to go back to Colin. And Colin is going to talk us through a little bit about the pit. The pit is a brand new feature within Season 4 and is now a permanent feature within Diablo 4.
Okay, that's
and,
good.
I
think it should also get a ladder.
For people who may have
So
not
let's see.
experienced the pit or may have not seen the stream beforehand,
Yeah.
and then on top of that, tell us about all the improvements that we're doing to the pit
Absolutely.
based off of feedback.
Yeah, so
That's good to know.
something that players have asked for since we did a bunch of nerfs to the Nightmare Dungeons. If you recall, I forget what season it was, but we made tier 100 Nightmare Dungeons a lot easier, so players could get through them. One of the big pieces of feedback we got was, okay, well, where's my measuring stick? The game is a power fantasy. It's about getting as much raw power as possible and just dominating, right? So if there's no place to push back, then everything is just a little bit too easy. So
maybe
the
they're
pit of the
gonna add a
Artificer
ladder for
is our
this.
answer to that measuring stick. You're going to be able to push very deep into the pit. There's a lot of levels. We were inspired by Abattoir of Zir, but to be very clear, Abattoir
More like
of Zir
Great
was a
Abyss.
special case in that each tier jump was just like brutal.
It was
right?
like exponential.
Yeah, it was like ridiculously hard every single tier, and it's like, you could only get to 7, which isn't very heroic or powerful, right? So we've taken a lot of the learnings from Abattoir of Zir. The pit goes very deep. There's many more tiers. It's much more gradual, so you can start pushing into it. And getting some of these masterworking material rewards.
What's kind of
And the
annoying on
pit
this
is all
is
about, just
how
blasting
to
through
like pick the
monsters
tier on
and
console.
demons of
Can we
hell,
like
there's
block
negative
it? 'Cause
modifiers.
that's gonna be
We're not
really
CCing
annoying,
you
I
a
think.
bunch. This is really just a test of how powerful your build is. So from the PTR, we actually got feedback that it was way too easy because we added a ton of power through tempering, through the Codex of Power. It's just much easier to get a lot of those aspects online.
Yeah,
we've
easy on
taken a look,
softcore maybe.
And we've moved some of the masterworking material tiers around. Previously, the tier 1 masterworking materials only came from 1 to 20. We've moved that up 10 tiers. So tier 1 will come from 1 to 29. Tier 2 will come from 30 to 59, and tier 3 will be 60 plus. And what that does is it just makes the journey feel a little bit more rewarding, right? Like we saw in the PTR that people just like within the first 2 hours just blasted through all of it because they're so powerful. So we've just adjusted some of the rates there. So you have to push a little bit deeper. You have to optimize your build a little bit more. So those armor caps are things to
good
watch
know.
out for, right? Where if you're over the armor cap, it's just a straight optimization to start thinking about how you want to replace some of that armor. We think that feels pretty good. And overall, we've increased the health and damage, or sorry, I should say, increased the health on all monsters post level 100, both in the pit and Nightmare Dungeons. So the enemies should be pushing back on you a little bit more, right?
That's
you care a
not
little
good.
bit more about utility, defense, outside of just one-shotting everything, right? So it sort of
Well,
tests.
you're
you,
not
a lot
one-shotting
more.
everything, man. Come on!
And part of that
Don't you
feedback, though, that
guys
we've heard
play
is that, well, like,
hardcore?
Nightmare
What the
Dungeons
fuck
don't
is
feel very
wrong with
rewarding.
you?
The pit doesn't feel super rewarding post, that 60 tier when you're getting those top-end masterworking materials. So we've done 2 major changes. One is we've added obols that scale with both of these tiers. So everything past tier 46 in Nightmare Dungeons and everything past tier 1 in the pit, actually. It just always gives you opals. You might ask,
so we're
but
gonna
opals are terrible. But,
gamble a lot.
I want ovals, Colin.
I know, right? A big part of Season 4 was that, we made the gambler guarantee 925 legendaries at level 100.
Yep.
And those legendaries can roll greater affixes. So, if you blow, a ton of opals on two-handers, for example, those two-handed legendaries you're getting are the same as anywhere else in the game. So it's actually a huge efficiency boost to getting the items you're looking for.
So
That
you
is
can
approved.
get like some of the best items in the game
You can
from
get-
the opal vendor now.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that makes them a lot more valuable.
And one thing
That's good.
that
So
is
just
also
do
changing
Nightmare
with opals is,
Dungeons.
like, because when people pick up opals, they're like, oh, I've got my cap, and
Yeah,
now I'm
probably
like,
someone's like
I'm like,
typing.
run back to town. and
But
do-
Colin, the opal cap is fucked. So we've increased the opal cap substantially. So the amount of
Okay,
opals
that's
you get
good
now
then.
is 2,500. You can hold up to.
yeah.
So you can just go to the gambler and be like, give me everything, and you can just do that a couple of times.
That's good.
So get your opals and hit the table.
I approve.
Yeah, exactly. And the items are incredible.
And just to like double down on this for a second too, like one of the things that we also did as part of this, like when you use the enchanting feature in Diablo 4, you can't actually enchant off of an affix into a greater affix.
That's right.
Yes.
So when a good item drops for you in the base game, you can't try to like roll for greater affixes off the enchanting system.
Yeah.
It's good for getting you to a stat you really need.
Yeah, but you can
in a
easily
situation where
pick
the
it,
item didn't
right?
get you what you wanted. But now with the opals vendor, like those items, not only are they iPower 925 and they have the chance to be legendary, of course, like the opals vendor always has, but you also have a chance to get greater affixes
That's right.
off those gambled items.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a particular pair of gloves, you're looking for a particular helmet, and you're saying, I really want a greater affix version of cooldown reduction on my helmet. Right, like now it's like, okay, cool. I'm going to take my 2,000 opals. I'm going to go to the vendor. I'm just going to gamble, and try to get that one helmet.
Yeah.
Like now I have a chance to really do that, and this is a way for you to like
Okay.
getting more drops and such inside the pit is one thing, but giving you more choice when you get out of a pit run, I think
Yeah.
is very
Yeah.
valuable.
It's gonna feel way better. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and another change we made was to Glyph XP. We got a bunch of feedback
Yes.
that's like, God, what the hell, Nightmare Dungeons. So we've increased the Glyph XP by 25%, which is faster leveling. And we've also scaled the
Okay,
amount of
that's
rune
really good.
shards, which is the pit currency to get into the pit, with Nightmare Dungeon. So you can create sort of a positive feedback loop if you're really strong, you're really powerful, you're hitting those tier 100s. In the Nightmare Dungeons, you're getting tons of pit keys that you can then translate into the pit and just get lots of runs and lots of masterworking there.
Yeah, so a lot of feedback from Nightmare Dungeons. People were saying like, "Hey,
So it's a good idea to actually do those now again.
So there are
sure
some,
did.
we sure did. We actioned on it for sure. So and then there's funny enough, there's also even in the season journey, I believe there's also like changes to the ashes themselves where you can actually use that to boost even like Glyph XP is also part of that. With the season journey. So very cool stuff that we have.
One more. Sorry.
There's more.
I have this list, but then I don't actually read it.
But then
it's just
he
like a
doesn't
prop.
actually
Yeah, sorry. One other thing that we did was we heard a bunch of feedback that players were dying at the end of the pit because we have this like shadow boss that sometimes comes in and throws a wrench in what you're doing. And as much as I push for learn to play, our encounter
I
designers.
like that good philosophy person.
Ruthless.
Absolutely.
Take
it was
that,
hilarious.
hardcore players. Surprise.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah, isn't it fun to die after you killed the boss? So our encounter designer did an amazing job cleaning up a lot of those affixes after you kill that boss, and the arena should be clear now after you kill that boss.
As
Okay.
Kat says, get good.
That's good.
But we saw that
Let's
a lot,
see.
and if you're a hardcore player, that would have been a tragic loss to your character.
Yeah, indeed.
Hilarious.
Yeah, some designers like fist pumping, like yes, got him.
Yeah, just watching streams and reactions from that. So awesome. So a lot of changes coming for the pit. Pit
I
is,
don't
of
remember
course, a
dying on
feature
that,
within
but
Diablo 4
maybe a
permanently,
immunity
and you
bow
can
would have been
experience that
nice.
in eternal and seasonal realms. And of course, we have some updates to the boss ladder because the boss ladder itself is changing pretty significantly. We talked a little bit about like how you can get additional materials in other
Not
places.
really, just
that
one
Derek
more
had
boss.
mentioned, but Colin has additional like points that he wants to bring up about the boss ladder, because
What
we
I
got a
think
lot
they
of
should
feedback
do
on
is
that,
split
and, there's some new
the
changes to it. to Season 4.
Uber loot.
Yeah, so we added Andariel, the best lesser evil.
Yes. Yeah. Boo, Asmodean.
Yeah, I
Boo.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
always dunking me.
He just dunks me with worms all day. Who likes that guy?
Yeah. So Andariel obviously has come back. She's incredibly fun to fight. The encounter design team killed it. And on top of Andariel, we've added a new tier to the boss ladder called Tormented Bosses. So these are much higher level than level 200 bosses, sort of pinnacle aspirational bosses to take down. And what we've done here is we heard a bunch of feedback that it required 5 times the amount of boss materials, including some rare pit material, to summon these, and 5 times the reward.
Oh, it's not rare.
That didn't really feel like the right amount of reward efficiency for taking on something that was challenging, so we've nerfed the cost. It's now 3x the amount of boss material,
Okay,
and
that's
5x
good.
the reward, so you get some pretty big efficiency.
Now
boosts
it
there,
makes
especially if
sense.
you're crushing them in
Okay.
the end game.
Now it makes sense to actually
So
defeat
that's
those.
feeling pretty good, we think. We also heard a lot of feedback
That's a good change.
that it's tedious to do the same activity over and over and over to summon some of these things, right? So it's like, I want to summon Penitent Knight, or I want to do the Beast of Ice. I know you and I have done that one, like,
every
hundreds of
build I've
times.
chosen in the season
Yeah,
requires the Beast and Ice, and
It's like, I guess
I'm
I'm
just
doing
stuck in
another Nightmare Dungeon.
hell forever. It's
Yeah.
been great.
Yeah.
Very
So,
happy about that.
yeah. Well, we
Let's
made
see
it
how
better.
they solved it.
A lot of our random, monsters and activities and things like that. So, elites, whisper caches, treasure goblins, world bosses, Hellborn, to name a few, are all going to start randomly dropping these boss materials. So, you're not necessarily forced into doing one exact activity. It's still going to be the absolute best way to get some of this boss material. But as long as you're blasting, you're just going to be getting a lot of these materials ambiently, which you can trade. You can just sort of cash in
Yeah,
on,
we
on your, at
noticed
your heart's
that.
desire. We think this
It
makes
was
the game feel
also
more
actually in the
flexible, sort of
PTR,
the
which
levels
is
you can
a
play,
good
a little bit
change.
more on how you want to play while still
Yeah.
keeping the experience fresh. So we think that's going to be a pretty big
Otherwise, just Helltide,
yeah.
Whispers.
To jump back
Helltide,
into the 20
Whispers.
bosses, just because I'm going
2
to jump
hour
around a little
bosses.
bit.
Helltide,
We heard a bunch of
Whispers.
feedback,
Helltide, Whispers.
especially
2
from
hour
Woody
bosses.
Joe. Hopefully he's watching. Is
There's
the
no
bosses.
way Woody Joe's watching right
I
now.
know, probably not. Yeah, it's not very interesting. We did some tuning to make sure that the tormented versions have some more parity, right? It was sort of like in a scenario where like one of the ladder bosses was just like dead easy, didn't really match the difficulty of the rest, and that's important because we give you 1 guaranteed resplendent spark 1 time for defeating any of these. So 1 step closer to getting that uber unique that's not just a raw drop of your choice, which is pretty awesome. And then something else, speaking of resplendent sparks, we're adding 1 to Uber Lilith. So the first time you kill Uber Lilith, you're also going to get another.
Wow,
resplendent
she
spark.
now finally
So
dropped
now
something
that
useful,
brings us
but
to
nobody cares.
3 opportunities of being able to earn yourself a Resplendent Spark. We
right.
heard one from Derek at the end of the season, the Iron Wolves, board, and doing that within the season. We now have one with the Echo of Lilith, and of course one with your first Tormented boss as well. So additional opportunities to earn Resplendent Sparks, and of course you can still salvage your any Uber gear
right.
that you do happen to find,
Yeah.
and you can actually earn a Resplendent Spark.
Yeah,
that
so
way.
what that means is if you do all of these and then you get an Uber unique, you can actually change that into whatever one you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is really what that means.
And then something else, on the Uber uniques is that
I'm just laughing because I didn't realize this, but chat's calling out with our tooltip that we showed. We had 200 plus Resplendent Sparks.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
happens when
We're
you
just
work-
really
yeah,
lucky.
Yeah,
you
it's
work-
a lot.
Yeah,
That's how I get them.
Let me tell you
Isn't that
guys
how
about
get them?
dev tools.
yeah. Yeah, that's actually my account online. So.
Oh yeah, there you go. Nice.
So
Looks like he's playing.
on the Uber uniques. We heard a bunch of feedback that it feels like a chore to have to do, the Penitent Knight into Varshan, into doing Duriel just for a chance at an Uber unique, right? And we've experienced that ourselves, right? It's like, God, I got to do all this stuff to fight the boss that's going to actually drop something that I care about. Greater affixes help that because there's some variation to the uniques you're going to get. But for Uber uniques, we've actually added a small chance, a little bit lower than Duriel, to all of the ladder bosses, and they're going to have a chance to drop an Uber unique as well. So while you're grinding through this ladder, every single boss you kill is going to have a chance to drop an Uber unique. It's not exactly the same as Duriel and Duriel. We should do like a combo.
let's do that.
Duriel,
A lot of Uriels.
and we think that's going to make it feel a lot better.
Awesome. So yeah, a lot of changes coming with boss ladder, and changes based off of PTR feedback that we saw, plus just overall changes for Season 4 that we were planning, so that it's gives more opportunities for players to actually experience it. And of course, the new versions of the bosses themselves and their Tormented Echo versions. So awesome, thank you so much, Colin. Of course. And I know we wanted to, before we jump into Q&A, because we're getting towards the end of our updates for Season 4, Mr. Adam Jackson wants to talk a little bit about the season journey. This is actually something really cool.
One last thing. Us over on Class Designer, we're really passionate about this and we're excited for it. So the season journey. So we really want to kind of juice the rewards and make the season journey more exciting. And so what we went and did was, when you're going through the season journey for every class, you're actually going to be getting a preset, curated amount of legendaries as you're going through that are targeted toward a specific build. So we chose a build for every class in Season 4, and we're going to change it around in future seasons. Please give us feedback on this, but we think it'll be pretty cool. But you're basically going to get like close to a completed build when it comes to opening those caches. They're guaranteed targeted legendaries to build a specific fantasy for every class. I think we have a video to show what they're going to be for every class in Season 4.
Let's see.
Maybe there. So Barbarian here, you can see we're going to be giving you a bunch of legendaries related to Dust Devils. The Druid, we're going to be giving you basically a pulverized build, which is pretty cool.
No.
Next is the Necromancer. Of course, everybody's going to be playing minions, so we gave you a bunch of minions.
No!
Legendaries.
That's not true!
Awesome. And then next is the Sorceress. We actually have a cool new legendary coming into the game for Incinerate, which you'll see here. It's
basically, it's for those underutilized stuff, and not for actual
And then the Rogue, we're giving you one targeted toward Barrage. So again, kind of the point of this is that, you know, if you don't really know what you want to play, or you really want to just go through a season journey and try out something before you go to a build that you really want to do, you have a foundation of something more complete to start with, which we're pretty excited about. We think it'll be really cool.
And with the codex change now, you also get to collect all those items are actually dropping out of the season journey caches. You get to kind of keep those. They're all going to your codex. You can use that build for the entirety of your leveling process.
Correct.
Yeah.
Awesome. So lots of changes coming this season. Sorry, my mic died halfway through there, so I had to do a quick mic swap as we were playing.
We didn't talk much about the seasonal journey though. That's weird.
Hi Joe. Derek is now over here. So,
as if there's pretty much none of it.
What's going on? We are playing
compared to
musical
previous
chairs.
seasons.
That is also a new feature coming in Season 4. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so a lot of changes. Season 4, pretty huge. It's by far the biggest season for Diablo 4 yet. And I know we wanted to jump into Q&A. I did want to bring up one thing as well.
Oh, wow, okay.
Which is, this is a change that will be represented in, by the way, patch notes are coming out immediately after this stream.
Oh, okay.
So, geez, okay.
So that's one thing. So yeah, people
That's
can
good.
check
So
out
gonna
patch notes
read
immediately
through
after the
everything.
stream.
Please enjoy reading it as much as we enjoyed writing it.
Writing it and reviewing it and editing it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't, based off of the size of the patch notes, I wouldn't be surprised if we do have a few things that might be missing that we'll probably like have to post add if as we're kind of going through it, just because
So
it's
after the
massive in
after
terms of
their
size,
stream,
as
gonna
people
do
saw
that.
on PTR, and now it's just even
It
larger.
represents a few different teams like effort trying to deliver this too.
Yeah. So, but patch notes will be up. One thing in the patch notes that I did want to bring up is, and this is a thing that's coming in Season 4, is for players that want to change their hair on their characters themselves, they can actually go to the wardrobe now and actually be able to do it, which is a nice, like, good quality.
Okay.
Feature. We've heard a lot of people go like, hey, I kind of want to, you know, I made that character a while ago, especially like an Eternal character or something like that. I'd like to be able to change that around. Yeah, I now have that flexibility of being able to do so, which is actually really cool. So we're going to jump into Q&A as usual, as we always do. We will start off with a question. This is actually something that's been a popular topic that a lot of people have been talking about since PTR, and of course, even this week with the blog itself. But
Don't leave me in suspense.
I know. I think we have the question. There it is. What does this mean for season powers in the future?
Oh,
Yeah,
just what
that's a
Season
good
4
one.
is, like the nature of Season 4? Yeah, okay, sure. So, yeah, Season 4 is Season 4, as I mentioned before, is like an opportunity for us to kind of like lift up a lot of aspects of the game that we think are really important. Diablo is a game about killing monsters and getting loot. And as I've said before, getting loot.
Yeah, but
we
where's
need
the
to make
seasonal
sure it feels
mechanic?
at
That's
least
the
as good
thing.
as killing monsters, right? Like,
They
it's
didn't say
extremely
anything
rewarding
about
to feels good. And we took a lot of our development effort and put it against that goal as part of this release. And there were other parts of the game that we lifted up at the same time, like the various changes that we talked about for Helltide, for example. the myriad new tempering recipes and things like that. There's lots of things we did, I think, as part of the release, just make the base experience of Diablo 4 more fun, right? So I'm really excited we're able to do that in Season 4. Thinking about what the future holds, we always want to make sure that with every season, we are adapting to what we think the game needs at that time. We think it's going to make for a better experience overall. We love the idea of seasonal powers. We've learned a lot of really, really great stuff from the days of the Barber, all the way through the vampiric powers we got in Season 2, and all the Seneschal and Construct stuff we had in Season 3. We have lots of big ideas for the future, so but you will see seasonal powers again in the future and different themes and mechanics as we go. That's kind of our promise to you. And with the things
but not now.
The Iron Wolves quest line and the various rewards you get, changes we made to the season journey.
What the fuck? There's basically pretty much no seasonal mechanic. What the hell?
As you kind of progress through.
Oh, they could have done that.
These mechanical elements as well at the same time. They can continue to help lift up the experience. So yeah, we will be returning seasonal powers in the future. But with every season, we want to make sure that we're doing what we think is lifting the game up the most, the things that we think are most important at that time.
Awesome. Question from our,
like I said, I wouldn't count on it.
Chat and from our
I said it before. Wouldn't count on it.
About specific questions, but this one's from the forums. This is from Avalon. They're asking if because Season 3 actually ran longer and Season 4 itself had a PTR, will Season 4 actually be a shortened season, or will it still be a standard size season? They weren't sure how PTR is actually affecting the time on it.
So PTR is not as impactful for the timing here. I think it's a slightly shorter season. I think it's like 1 week shorter or something. I need to look at the date.
Yeah, and I will note PTR. The reason why Season 3 ran longer was because we wanted to make sure that we could get that PTR. This was our first PTR, so there was a little bit more effort needed to get that out for players.
Yeah, I guess you're absolutely right. So I think about when I'm thinking about the future and what PTRs look like, and what we want things to be like. It's not that having a PTR automatically means that everything is going to take longer to deliver. But there was a lot of things we had to set up for the first time for the PTR for Season 4, and I'm really glad that we did because as I think you've seen, there's a lot of things we learned as going through the process.
And it gave us the time to iterate and use the feedback too, which we did a lot of things on based on.
Question from Blake Darko CS. Will you guys think about maybe a potential different beam color for items with greater affixes?
So I know we talked about this
that's
for a while.
good idea.
Yeah, I think that's something we're definitely going to keep an eye on. Right now, we think that the little dots, or I should say huge dots, the huge stars on them, are doing a pretty good job. But that's
not really, because it doesn't differentiate between
seeing how these new
items
stars are going to help.
Yeah.
More than one great affix.
The change, especially the
so
changes in the inventory.
Not really a good change.
Identify them in your inventory and everything is really big.
And these also roll on unique, so there's a little bit of work that we'll need to figure out. But again,
it's true. Yeah, you can get greater affix on unique items as well.
So it's the beam color gets a little confusing there. So something that we'll monitor for sure, and of course something that we've seen from players and a lot of people bringing that specifically up. Fire Dragon Dad says, are the Season 4 updates going to retro into existing Eternal? So everything we talked about today, with the exception of the Iron Wolves questline stuff, is actually present in the Eternal realm. So players like the Codex power changes, everything like that will be there. I know there are a lot of questions related to the Codex changes, especially for Eternal players. And just to clarify, if you have aspects in your inventory and your stash, it'll take whatever your highest roll of that specific aspect, and then that will become your new best codex entry when Season 4 does start. You may need to log on to specific characters on Eternal to at least for us to be able to check your inventory, but the stash I know will automatically move over there. Cool. And same thing for I know we get a lot of questions about items on Eternal. Those will be marked as legacy items specifically because obviously we've changed a lot of affixes and everything.
And those items you can't craft on those items either at that point. You can't temper those items and you can't masterwork those items. But they'll still retain the item.
You can gamble a lot and get them.
So if it doesn't mean when you log on all your gear is suddenly unusable. It's just marked as legacy, and you won't be able to use tempering or master.
It's a great stepping off point to getting some new items that could have greater affixes and other things that could make it even more powerful.
Yeah.
A question that we have actually from the forums. This is from Iggy. With the itemization reworks, is there what is the next big thing you guys are actually looking at potentially wanting to really work on within the team. I don't know if we want to play our cards too early. Yeah.
Well, I think
We're
it's
working on things.
we're working on all kinds of stuff, everybody. But no, I think one thing we want to continue to work on. I think you see like as we're thinking more about the end game experience, a lot like when we launched Diablo 4, we thought of end game really as a journey from like really from 50 to 100, like the things you're doing along the way and getting all of your Paragon glyphs and leveling those glyphs up and go diving deeper into Nightmare Dungeons and going and eventually confronting Lilith. That was what we kind of imagined or thought that endgame would feel like, and that was a good thing for us to build on. I think we saw that a lot more players were looking for endgame like explicitly at level 100. Yeah. That was when they wanted a lot more things to open up, and we've made a lot of changes recently to try to like create more gameplay around that part of the experience between like the itemization changes and the crafting changes, and also in the introduction of like tormented bosses, and of course the Pay the Artificer. Yeah. So I think that like we know that there's more opportunities for us to build on these things, right? Like I think you've heard me say this before, but a lot of the things we're doing in Season 4 specifically really are done to like build a new framework, for how endgame sort of functions, the things that drive a player forward, the things that get them excited, and the content that they engage with along the way as well, right? We want to make sure that they're having that players are having a really fun time, a rewarding time while they're playing Diablo 4, and they can find opportunities to be appropriately challenged as they go through the experience as well. We think there's more opportunities for us to kind of like grow and expand the offerings of things that players can have access to, the things they can go experience, at that stage of the game.
Awesome. Question from Old Dudes, New Games. I love these names. They're so good. What about codex resetting when swapping characters? That was actually just an issue on PTR.
Okay, that's good.
When you swapped characters and stuff like that.
So
yeah, when
you don't have to keep the items. That's good.
Use the boost NPC. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was not a thing that you will experience in Season 4, and so that's not a common thing or a normal thing that's supposed to actually happen. It just was a bug that we had in PTR. There's a lot of questions here about the mind cage, and I just want to maybe clarify with the players. Opus Crocus says, if you consume more than one, does the mind cage stack or does the timer reset?
Timer reset, I think.
Yeah, the timer resets.
Timer resets, okay.
Ah, that's good then.
In regards to, again,
then you can't bump the hell type to more than 10 levels up, so that's good.
Do mind cages trigger for a single player or your whole group if you're grouped up?
Single player.
Just a single player. Yeah, it's a personal thing. Okay.
That's also good.
Clarity around the mind cages, because I know we've had a lot of people ask specifically.
And we want feedback on this, by the way, too. So when you get a chance to play with the mind cage during the season,
no, don't make it on groups.
Yeah,
no.
Tell us what you think. We want to
know.
No. This is from Nupu Games. Do unique items get a stat/functionality boost since tempered legendaries are just straight up better? And is
they are. We need +1 tampering now on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Adam can speak to some of these changes if you wanted to jump in, but we've done a pass on all the unique items. We've done things like Razor Blade, I think has 4 Thorns affixes, and we changed what the legendary power is.
Yeah. By the way, that was a big question we got from people at PTR, because they were like, hey, what about
Razor Blade? We heard a lot. No, we had to change Razor Blade. It'll be cool.
And it's actually in the patch notes, and yeah, it's a lot of Thorns.
Razor Blade's hilarious. We still love it.
It's hilarious.
I wanted to just have like 1, so you can't miss on Masterwork.
Yeah. What I'll say though about the unique to legendary item power level, I suppose, is that we knew when we were making these tempering changes and updating those that we wanted legendaries, because they kind of have they have kind of different identities right now in the game, and so we're still figuring out what we want to do with uniques long term. But the idea is that like legendary items or items really, they have a journey, and you're working on them, and there's a story to them, and you get it, and it's not like a one-stop shop. You're done, kind of like how they were before. Uniques, a part of their identity is that like you get a unique and it's freaking awesome and really powerful and very exciting, and you have it and you're done with it. And so we're keeping this discrepancy of like what their purposes are in the game for now, and kind of seeing how it goes. We did take a look at some uniques, but we didn't like do a whole pass of like, every single unique now has 5 affixes or something like that. Like we wanted them to be a little bit different, have different identities. So we do kind of expect that uniques may be less prevalent than they were before. We still believe, though, that a lot of uniques are really key for various builds, and so you're still going to want them. But you're not going to want like a unique in every single slot in your character now, because they're just clearly always better, right? Sometimes some builds will want more uniques, some will want less, and you want to kind of see how that plays first before making sweeping changes. Some obvious roads we could take is like adding crafting to uniques. What if you could temper them? What if you could do these other things, right? Like, we know that that's a thing, and we may do that in the future, but we're kind of evaluating this world where it's not clearly always you only get one or the other, and we kind of want to see how that goes first before making any big changes.
Yeah, and the fixed nature sort of has you consider it's part of your optimization puzzle, right?
Yes.
Like, well, I'm going to give up some tempering affixes to get this unique, for example, in my chess slot, for example. And we sort of want to see where that goes. Like, we think that that's fun, and we think that the excitement of a unique are those fixed stats. When you see the item on the ground, you know, like, oh, okay, that's the unique I want. I can just equip it. I don't even have to work on it.
Yeah.
It's just like there for me. So.
No.
And then I know, by the way, did we talk about
Yeah, you need to change that.
masterworking? Or not masterworking,
We
but
did talk
did.
about masterwork.
A lot.
We did talk.
We've done it twice on stream.
did we talk about
Tampering
groups
on
and,
unique should be a thing, I think.
with the pit?
I didn't write it down and I didn't
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah.
So we got a bunch of feedback that, you know, it sucks to help someone with their pit run and just not get any masterworking material. It's like, well, why am I here? So what we've done is we've made it so that the person who opens the pit is going to get 100% of the masterworking materials. Previously, I think it was split, maybe across all players. And what we've done now is that the person who opens it gets 100%, and then everyone who helps defeat the pit gets 50% of that target goal. So we're trying to walk that line where group play isn't just like totally overwhelmingly efficient, but you're still getting something for helping each other like go through those pit levels.
Yeah, we heard a lot of feedback about players going like, it feels a little unrewarding to
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
totally
there
get
were some
that.
changes from
In general, I think there's still
That's
some
because
tension
they
with how players
made
feel
them
about the
used
efficiency
to
of
the
groups,
boss
and
efficiency
boss
for
summons, things like
groups.
that. These are things we're thinking about. We have ideas on, but we want to continue to get feedback, particularly with these changes, and kind of see how things play out.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We're getting questions about, you know, hey, are there any updates on social features and things like that coming to D4? Don't know if we have anything to share right now. Right, it's something.
Give us
obviously
solo
that
mode.
Team is very well. You guys ask all the time, so we're very aware of it. And the team is been looking at it, and once we have more to share, we'll end up sharing it with you guys. But for right now, we don't have any update.
Yeah.
There's questions about it. If there's plans of adding maybe potential leaderboards to the pit or anything, or is that going to be something that's just exclusively on the Gauntlet?
I think the idea of adding leaderboards to other types of content over time makes sense. Could be pretty fun, you know. But right now, I really want to see how the pit plays on its own. The trials feature and challenge ladder, like we really want that to be a place where players can, or the Gauntlet, like, it's a place we really want players to be able to like go and compete in a very fixed environment, a very like, extremely fair environment, which is like what we really prioritize as part of the release. The pit is pretty variable, run to run, so that makes it a little more complicated. It doesn't mean that we would never add it. I think that there's a clear indicator that it'd be pretty fun to have this slightly looser leaderboard associated with a feature like this.
Yeah.
You know, but we're going to see how things play out, and we'll be thinking about how we can add more competitive features.
Patch notes page doesn't work.
Question from Elro here. I didn't pronounce that right, but when
Elro here, I think that is actually
nailed it.
it's like an elven name right now.
Since not everyone actually experienced PTR, because PTR itself was on PC Battle.net, but they were asking, when tempering, can you keep previous rolls?
Can you keep previous rolls?
Like the enchanting system.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Currently, right now, we don't have the functionality to let you keep the roll. Right now, if you're going to commit to re-rolling, you're going to lose that
You're
previous
committing
one.
to re-rolling.
Yeah, it's sort of like the blacksmith is hammering on that item and unlocking different aspects of the weapon. You sort of lose what you previously had. But we're open to feedback, right? It's a completely new feature.
Yeah, give us a new
wanna hear how it's
currency
playing,
to
and then ultimately
lock
maybe
an
what is a fun
affix.
crafting feature. So if,
Lock
that
an
sort of
affix.
feedback is really valuable.
We'll take two more, and one is from Matt LOL. Is tempering going to allow changes for the skills, the skill type, like maybe lightning hydras, or maybe changes to Blizzard where it's a rain of fire or something like that?
That's pretty cool.
Honestly, anything an affix can do.
Yeah.
Is open season of things we could potentially do in the future. Yeah, not in season 4, but you know, possibly in the future.
Awesome. This is actually from
There's a lot of space to grow.
There is.
Utility is a category that we can do. There's a lot of space to do
utility.
interesting things potentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions in here about like additional character customization options and stuff like that coming in the future. It is like something the team is always looking at, adding additional things for players to have more choice of what they want to do, especially as they're creating characters. And of course, being able to obtain those, like even just some things in season 4 of being able to get additional, cosmetic things for your mount and everything like that is something that the team is most definitely looking
Yeah,
into.
we care about this a great deal. I think one thing that's very interesting about Diablo 4, or a problem that we have that's very specific, right, is there are actually quite a few cosmetics for players to earn out on bosses and things, like throughout the game. Like there's lots of things for players to collect cosmetically in the game. But it's really hard
By
to
just
know that
salvaging
drops off
gear.
that thing in Diablo 4. Like you can go and you could fight like a world boss 50 times and not have a drop occur for you, right? Like then eventually you get your special horse. You're like, oh, okay. It
That's
is here,
the
but you
thing,
have no
indeed.
idea. So it's kind of like it's harder to know exactly where to grind. We're actually talking about that a bit on the dev side. See if like there's more ways we can kind of like make it clear where certain things can be found, which I think could be really fun.
Yeah.
But I think that there's work we can do there, and also there's still work we can do about just trying to get more cool looks into the game. So we've been talking a lot more with the various teams inside inside Diablo 4, and there's a broad agreement we want to bring more cool stuff to you guys, and more cool stuff for players to find and pick up and equip and feel like it was really exciting to get that thing. One thing we're doing like already is we're like as we develop more uniques, we're trying to make sure that we have like more unique appearances to go with all of them. We have like a lot of really fun ideas. And we have to constantly like wrestle with like all right we only have like this X many swords, but like we have like this many ideas for swords, and we want to like try to get this in the game. We want to wait till we have the artwork for a sword. We usually try to make sure that we've got a fun toy to immediately give you, but we're going to make sure we're trying to get more of that stuff in game as well. So there's just even more artwork to the unique system for players to collect.
Awesome. So that's all the time we got right here for today. We went over all the changes.
That all?
Actually, there's even more changes. There's actually more changes in the patch notes.
Yeah, we'll
can't go
read
through every
these
single line
and
of the patch
comment on
notes
them.
over a stream, so you guys can actually check out the patch notes. Those
When?
will be available on Diablo4.com. We always have those listed on our specific patch notes page, and those will be live immediately after this stream.
Oh,
Season
currently
4,
this
Loot
page is
Reborn,
down.
starts on May 14th. This is across all platforms. It's on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and of course, if you're an Xbox and PC Game Pass user, you can also play Diablo 4 now via PC Battle.net or on your Xbox. So lots of opportunities to play, and of course, Steam. Can't forget Steam. Steam is also on there for PC.
That's also a platform.
That is
which you can
also
play
a
Diablo
platform.
for.
We're everywhere.
Any other platforms you want to just shout out? Or?
We're everywhere.
Oh, all right, we're everywhere.
Not on Nintendo.
Again, thanks to everyone for tuning in. We're looking forward to you guys jumping into Season 4 Loot Reborn. We'll see you guys in game. And thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Probably won't see them in game. I don't think they play hardcore. So I guess that was it. Let's do a quick break and wait for the patch notes. And we'll resume after that, reading the patch notes and commenting on the full plethora of changes. So be right back.
Diablo 4. You might have seen me around. We are obviously aggressively waiting for the patch notes to go live. We just had a lot of thoughts with my chat.
Alright everyone, hello, I'm back. So, hello, this is your host Zeiss here, and as you probably know, on this channel I turn you into an RPG master. Now, we've already commented on the developer live stream, and they said that the patch notes will be available right after. So, let's go into those patch notes, right? It is going to be mostly the hardcore necromancer perspective, so we're not gonna talk much about damage here, because that's what people, I guess, usually do, and I noticed that they usually talk about. So, let's see. What do we have here? Updates from the public test realm. Right. We appreciate the feedback, blah blah blah. Okay, feature updates. There's no longer a chance to masterworking to fail. Well, let's see. I don't think that's a good change though. Maybe they should have included that. I think it was a good mechanic. But maybe to like reduce the chance to fail. It was actually a good thing, which could make us play more and find more interesting stuff and like make us fight for it, right? It's just like too much candy at once, I think. I don't know. So I don't really approve this. Let's see what else. The masterwork animation has been removed for non-milestone ranks. Yeah, at least that is good. They already mentioned it during the live stream. That's a really good change. But they kept it only on the um, milestone one, which is like on 4, on 8, and the last one, on 12. Tampering result screen now shows the result affix, its role, and the affix range. That's good because it didn't. So that's really good. Various UI improvements for the tampering and master working experience. Well, I definitely want to see that, especially on console, because I usually play on PlayStation 5, like not to screw up my PC with this heavy game and not have like interruptions and everything. Not that my PC is not good. It can actually handle it quite nicely. 120 FPS on 4K, no problem. But, you know, because of the streaming, I wouldn't usually do that. And anyway, let's move on here. Added multiple tiers of masterworking material caches that transmute far more materials than the previously available. That's a good solution, but like they said, it's not ideal. So maybe it's a better idea to just straight up give us the materials without having to extra click, because those caches, they're not tradable. They're like count bound, so doesn't make much of a sense here, I guess. Okay, let's move on. Visual indication has been added to the imprint UI, which indicates which legendary affixes are currently equipped. Oh, that's pretty good, actually. So it will make it easier to find those upgrades in there. That's really good. You can now search the item equip or equipped within the Codex of Power to list currently equipped affixes. That's good. Added inventory icon to indicate items that have at least one greater affix. That I already commented on during the live stream. The problem is that have at least one greater affix, but what about those which have 2 or 3? They should be also easily distinguishable, and that's not the case here. When items with greater affixes drop in game, they will also have the same icon to indicate they possess greater affix. Yeah, hope they do better in the future, basically, because I don't think that's it's a neat solution, because the greater affixes can also roll on uniques, but still I think it will require some work. Let me do something here real quick to move myself a bit, because I noticed I'm not on a very good position here with the cam. Right, let's do that. Oh, that's better, I think. All right. Let's see, Helltide and the Pit. What do we have here? Mm, Party member that spends the rune shards to open the pit gets 100% of the master working materials. Yeah, that's new, and they already mentioned it on the developer live stream, and the other people get 50%, so that's pretty good. Maybe I think they should do something similar on the bosses, like when doing the bosses in a group for the group advantage. I think the group advantage should be removed whatsoever, or maybe something like this should be implemented to, because I know many people don't want to do it in groups anyway, especially the bosses. So let's see what else is in here. Artillery and blast wave shrines no longer spawn in the pit. Okay, that's really good actually, because from what I remember from the PTR, it was actually felt illegal to use those against the bosses, right? Because it was very, very, very powerful, like insanely powerful. You just go to the tier like 200 boss and you just two-shot it, right? It doesn't feel right. Hmm. Hellborn spawn chance in Helltide zones has been increased. Okay, that might be a problem, especially for early levels, but we'll see how it plays. Baneful hard drop rate has been adjusted to be more consistent. Well, yeah, they already mentioned it. I think it's a good idea, but those are not itemized. I think they were displayed on the top right of the screen where the threat is, so I don't know. They want to make us fight the Blood Maiden, but it's a very dangerous opponent, I think. And especially during the PTR, I remember a lot of people dying there. The danger from the Blood Maiden is actually when she applies Vulnerable. Because now we will not have many sources of damage reduction, and being vulnerable now and from Season 4 onward is going to be really, really ridiculously dangerous. So, especially for other hardcore players, I guess, just be more careful, right? Overall, loot quality from the Blood Maiden has been improved. Yeah, but again, like I said, too dangerous to care, at least initially, right? Loot quality has also been improved for players that contribute materials to summon the Blood Maiden. Well, yeah, we'll see about that. And it should indicate somewhere, I think, like a counter or something. Not that you don't know if you contribute or not, but there should be some indicator. I think Doomslayer variants, which used to drop chest of Doomsaying. Okay, Doomsayer actually. On defeat, will now drop the contents of the chest on death with no additional cinders cost. Oh, yeah, that's a really good change actually, because maybe those gonna be like target farmed for sure. Balance adjustments. Well, what I remember, they actually said they're gonna decrease the time needed. No, actually, they during the developer live stream, they said the time to open those will be decreased from 3 seconds to 1.5 seconds. No, what are they talking about now then? What the actual fuck? Do they actually know what they're doing? Raises a few questions, this thing. Let's see, balance adjustments. Many tempering affixes that were either overperforming or underperforming have been adjusted to meet intended power levels. But the problem with this is, where can we read what were the adjustments? Because this is something we definitely want to know in advance, right? We can't just have an idea what to do unless we do it. That kind of sucks. Or like check it in game, waste additional time and all that. I don't know. We'll see how it plays then. The tampering affix for maximum size increase for various skills and effects, such as Dust Devils or Bone Spirit, is now capped at 100%. That's a good change. Otherwise, would have been like too insane to play, like they said. And see the itemization updates. For full details on itemization, including legendary aspects and the Codex of Power, item affixes, greater affixes, tampering, masterworking, please read our Season 4 blog here. Which is... there is no link to it. Huh. Okay, that's very weird. Or maybe they mean like below. Let's see, here are some of the major items coming with itemization updates. Extracting an aspect now upgrades it in the Codex of Power. That's a good thing. It should have been in the game at launch, but you know, all aspects now exist in the Codex of Power. That's pretty good. Various item affixes have been updated and the overall pool of affixes has been condensed. Additionally, greater affixes have been introduced. Yeah, they said. Appearing early on ancestral legendary or unique items, these are more powerful versions of normal affixes. That's actually nothing new here. It's 1.5 times, right? Each item affix has a chance to be a greater affix in World Tier 4. That's only on World Tier 4. New tampering and masterworking systems allow deeper customization. That's the TLDR basically. And legendary items dropped from enemy level 95 plus are always the 925. That's good, especially for gambling, because based on the change that they mentioned during the developer live stream, gambling will actually now be quite the thing. And they mentioned that the oboes will be increased, the maximum oboes, to 2,500. And completing the higher tier nightmare dungeons are gonna also award it, and you pretty much get guaranteed lots of items with this chance to actually craft a lot, right? And let's see. Unique items can now drop earlier in the game. That's something which is really good because you can you can actually have a build, working build early on, which is really good for leveling. Things can be like really faster. But probably yet again, at least on the Necromancer side, what we're gonna do is I don't know how do I put this, but if we don't get the Sacrilegious Soul early on, definitely far version, because it's gonna like help a lot. Sometimes I remember like this season 3, I got it after the second version kill, but the season before I got it on the like 55th kill. So that's something to be cautious about, I guess. Good drop rates could be quite varied. Okay, we have them in World Tier 1 and 2. I'm generally probably gonna skip Tier 1 and go straight to 2, but we'll see how that goes. World Tier 4 unique items can now drop Sacred in World Tier 3. Right. And the Uber unique items can start dropping for monster level 55, so that's something really good. Especially something build enabling drops, but I highly doubt that would be the case. Though those probably would be like really rare, but we'll see how it goes. Right? The minimum levels required to keep sacred and ancestral items have been reduced. This is actually a really good change because those are usually the levels when you want to progress. Like on level 35, you are usually powerful enough to go do the capstone, and the ancestral usually on 55. That's a really good breakpoint to actually go do the other capstone, or maybe like more like 60 or something. Depends on what drops and what gear you get. But especially for the Necromancer side of things, if you have a good shield with DR and use Bone Storm, you're basically good to go. No problem. Alright, let's see, let's move on here. Now, the changes from the PTR have been highlighted in red. So, let's see, accessibility, new character highlights. We have added the option for highlight NPCs, characters, and enemies found within Sanctuary to make them easier to distinguish against different environments. Wow, so that's like probably on like the enemies, like when they glow red, if you target them, maybe like this, we'll see how it goes. Standard highlight setting, game lighting, and emphasize the dark and gritty world of Sanctuary as intended. What the fuck? Additional highlights greatly increases the contrast for the characters within the world. And in-game options can be used to modify the intensity as well as the colors. Yeah, so that's like player highlight or something. Helltide Reborn. Let's see what exactly we don't know from what was already mentioned here. And Helltide has been updated to provide more challenges and rewards. Helltide Threat is actually good, something that I really appreciate, especially because I usually farm it as a Bloodthirst Necromancer, where I just walk around, push the button, the screen dies, so the more the better. Actually, if you don't know, the Bloodthirst skill requires more targets to be more powerful. Right, so that's always good, always welcome. More enemies, more powerful, no problem. Just give us more. As you battle through Helltides, you generate threat. How much will be determined by the difficulty of the monster and how often you are securing tortured gifts within Helltide, so that's pretty good. There is Helltide threat tiers. It increases the meter and the danger and the frequency, and the ambushes were actually really cool. At tier 3 will become the Hell Marked. Oof, what the fuck? Sorry about that. Achieving maximum threat will initiate a brief frenzy of maximum enemy density and also ambushes, from what I remember. That was pretty good. Threat will initiate a brief ambush frenzy, yeah. Maximum enemy density. The ambush will end with the final Helltide spawn. Those are like the characters, right? An immensely powerful agent of hell, resurrected from the tortured souls of Sanctuary, most powerful champions, right? They mimic the classes. Could be really dangerous, but if it's a necromancer, that's usually not a big deal. There are 5 variants represented in class, yeah, each class, like they said. Activating the Hellborn ambush, your threat will reset. That's good. Dying will reset your progress, because we don't talk about this softcore bullshit here, right? Let me check something. Right. YouTube is somewhat behind, I think, for some reason. YouTube is terrible for streaming these days. I don't know why. It's just not what it was. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, let's move on here. Cursed Ritual. This is for the, if I'm not mistaken, for the Blood Maiden. Painful Hearts can be primarily earned through the opening of the torture gifts. Those are the chests. And can be used in a cursed ritual occasion. Painful Hearts can also drop from Hellborn Demons and Doomsayers. Right. A scene of shocking gore. The cursed ritual is the ultimate testament to the distinguished legends and the powers of hell will go to. Okay. This is actually how you summon her. And like I said previously, the dangerous thing about her is applying vulnerable, so we'll see how it plays. Because I remember they nerfed this boss at the end of PTR, so we'll see how it goes. And to summon it, you need to deposit 3. Yeah, the ambush will climax with said boss, right? War of Tier 1 and 2 adjustments. Let's see what they did. All torture gifts are mystery chests. Yeah, that was a thing. That's already known. No roaming bosses. That's already known. Monster density adjusted to match the expected difficulty. Okay. New items. Tyrael's Might. We already know about that one. It's like Perma Artillery Shrine. Pretty good with damage reduction and resistances. Right? Really good. Maybe many people will go after that, especially those who don't have a pointy targeted skill, so it can shoot in all directions. That'd be pretty good. Like in our case here, Blood Surge, for example. Let's see, legendary aspects. This is the Frosty Strides. Evade freezes close enemies for cold damage. I don't think that's useful actually. While below 60% life, you don't want to get to that point on hardcore for sure. So I don't think that's of any use, especially having in mind how damage works in this game, and many things just either do little to no damage or they just one-shot you, so very useful aspect indeed. Aspect of concussive strikes. Lucky hit, damaging an enemy has up to 20% chance to daze them for 2 seconds. That is somewhat useful, maybe, especially for those harder things. It's more like having Fists of Fate on demand. I don't know. It's not such a bad thing. But the damage increased against them, it's not so much. It's more about the chance to daze them. And more crowd control, the better, especially for the harder stuff. And probably this also contributes to the boss stagger bar, so it might be useful. I didn't actually use it on the PTR because I didn't have a use case for it, but we'll see how it plays during the season. If even required, right? I'm gonna skip the barbarian part here. I hope they nerf it to the ground, because it's just ridiculous, as if it's a different game. Same goes for the druid, right? We don't play that here, mostly. Well, I played them, right? I've played them, you probably saw me play them, but my main class is Necromancer, so we're gonna focus here mostly on the hardcore Necromancer perspective. And because of my case being one of the top of those, it appears, and nobody wants to do PvP with me on hardcore, so I don't think I should go into detail about the other classes, because why bother? Right? Why bother? It's just no use and a waste of time anyway. So let's move on here. Airborne Piercer, a unique amulet, Blight shoots projectiles. Well, we already know this, really good. And does the shadow damage? It doesn't say if they actually change something here. So it doesn't say. But on the developer livestream, what they said is that the projectiles used to have more lucky hit than expected. That was a thing, but the other thing which was also the if you tamper on your weapon, chance to deal more damage. That was the thing. It can also trigger lucky hit separately, as far as I remember, especially with dots, because every time the enemy takes damage, it's considered a hit. It's not like direct hit from either projectile, like from the Blight projectiles, or from Reap, or Spear, or Tendrils, or Corpse Explosion. I don't know. So that was kind of weird, and we are yet to see how it translates into Season 4, but, we'll see. Curer's Embrace unique gloves. Those gloves are actually complete bullshit. Actually, I tested, and the better performance that I got was with a glove which had, it was +2 core skills, critical strike damage, armor, and life and intelligence, I think, and also tendril size, if I'm not mistaken, something like. So we'll see how it goes. But not that those are bad, because they can provide much more to plus to the skill, but it's just one skill, and not being able to respect for bosses for single target with lance. I find this glove complete bullshit. Not to mention that they completely destroy the corpses around. And if you use the what was it called, the exhumation glyph, then it will be a problem for the corpse explosion. Mm, Maybe it could work if we don't use corpse explosion. That's the thing. And count on corpse consumption only through corpse tendrils. Because necromancers without corpse tendrils, that's complete bullshit, I think. Let's see legendary aspects here. Skeletal priest, empower your skeletal warriors attacks to deal shadow damage and have more chance to stun enemies. Okay. What I don't like in this in general is they kind of force us to play, to not play active necromancer, but play minions. They kind of force us to do that, so I don't know. Player choice completely destroyed. Well done, Blizzard. Yeah, definitely. Skipping rogue here in general. Also skipping sorcerer. Don't really care about these, so Let's see balance updates, right? Unique items, Banished Lord Talisman, they already mentioned that it was nerfed. Updated visuals and sounds to indicate that your next core skill will overpower. I definitely want to see that, because I don't think I found that during the PTR, so I don't know. Critical strike overpower damage reduced from, yeah, pretty much a lot. Reduced a lot. And probably my problem with this actually is because they did it because of the barbarians. Actually, this was a really good damage scaler for the necromancer, and because of the ridiculous amounts of damage that barbarians deal, because they are being able to equip 4 weapons, now we don't have a good damage scaler here. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Resources needed to guarantee the overpower are reduced, but not with much, so who cares, right? When you stack these, let's say on like 10 times, it doesn't make any sense, because the boss should be dead by that time until this matches up the nerf of this. So, I don't know. Thibaut's Will, that's probably gonna be one of the best pair of pens now because of the damage reduction. And at least the damage is nerfed. Damage increase persists for 1 second longer after being unstoppable. So that's not a thing now. Let's see, Razor Blade has been updated to function within the new Masterworks system. The now has the 4 turns affixes. Instead of no affixes. Oh, that's weird. 4 turn suffixes? So they split it into 4? I think they did that so it doesn't scale as much. Probably. That's a neat trick. New unique power turns has a 10% chance to deal increased damage. Oh. Yeah, I guess they nerfed it to the ground to add this. And splitting it into 4 makes it like harder to scale. Maybe. I don't know. It still contributes maybe to base turns. Not really sure what the formula there is, but we'll see. Legendary aspect, disobedience. It's completely useless now, actually. Armor gains changed, but the point is, it's basically doesn't have any use in the game now because the armor is pretty easy to get. What we need is hardened bones instead of this. And the Juggernaut completely redundant because you want to get the armor on the gear, not on the aspect, because the aspects are for more important things that you can get on the gear, right? If it makes sense. Let's see a simulation. Previous, you have increased dodge chance. Now you have increased dodge chance when you dodge. Fortify. Yeah, that's a thing. But chance versus enemies affected by damage storm or time effects. When you dodge, you gain of your primary resource. Actually, I remember playing with this, and it was pretty good until the point I got enough fortified to not care about it. But especially now with the change of fortify having 15% rather than 10, it's actually a good thing, right? Especially for those classes which don't have access to fortify. Like that's a druid and a necromancer thing and barbarian thing, right? So for the sorcerer and for the rogue, that could help initially, maybe. Its of retribution chance to stun is increased, not with much, just 2%, but it makes a significant difference. Now increases damage to stun and knock down enemies, so that's totally going to be a druid thing, which we don't really care about. Let's see, in our comb, the previous was dealing increased damage for 3 seconds you stand still. Not so good unless maybe you're fighting a boss or something, but now it's dealing increasing damage, triple this bonus after standing still for 3 seconds, which is usually a boss scenario because most of the things you meet, they just die too easy. It's too easy to kill. Let's see the counted sage. Heal life per seconds for each close enemy. That was really good, especially because of the disconnects. This could actually save you. That's how it was. But now we have the scroll of escape triggering on disconnect. So let's see. Now you have 8% increased dodge chance. Successful dodge restores. Yeah. Okay. Hmm. What I'm interested in, if this works with untimely death. Because what I noticed on the PTR is life per hit and life per second not working with untimely death. So that's a thing. That's something probably I'm gonna test like during like mid to late season or end season. I don't know. We'll see. Both chieftain now usable, both barbarians and druids. Which Needle Flare also applies thorns to necromancer minions. That's pretty good because it can spread the thorns, right? Hectic cooldown reduction reduced from 2 to 4 seconds from 1 to 2 seconds. Okay, I see. That is probably because of the what was it called? The flame shield problem of the Sork, right? Those monsters will deal more damage the higher level they are, but their relative damage reduction will remain the same from level 100 onward. This change was made to account for level 200 boss monsters, right? Doing extreme amounts of damage to players that are capped for armor. Yeah, I mean, that's probably some kind of softcore joke, right? Necromancer, Barbarian, Druid, and Sorcerer companions now receive 100% of the player's attributes. That was a thing from the past, right? Skill tags have been updated. They already talked about this. Applicable shout skills for Druid and Barbarian are tagged as shouts. New chain tag. Abilities like Chain, Lightning, and Rabies. Right, new mobility that move for the teleport players such as scout drops or teleport, but nothing about blood mist, and we don't really care about this on that channel here. More skills are now tagged as core skills such as sorcerer mastery skills and other skills which use resources like bone spirit. Additionally, various aspects have been updated to account for these changes. But let's see, damage reduction granted by Fortify has been increased, like the already mentioned, from 10 to 15. I think it should have been 20, but anyway. Cooldown reduction now capped. Don't really use it, so don't care. Physical damage calculation against damage reduction now caps at level 100. What? Well, that's how it was. What? Physical damage calculation against damage... Wait. Well, that's how it was before. There's nothing changed here, actually. The maximum evade charges affix have been increased from 2 to 3. That's how it was. It's an implicit on the boots. Nothing changed there. When you upgraded, it was 3. So you can get a total of 4. I don't know. Are they joking or something? Because why did they even mark it in red? As if it's something new. This is how the game shipped at launch. Okay. Alright. Let's see. Attacks reduce evade cooldown affix has been increased from 0.8 to 1.5 seconds. Yeah, I think that's a good change, actually, especially having in mind they probably didn't fix the channeling shrine, so that could help. The evade grants movement speed affix, which is the most useless affix on the boots. because you usually want to get the movement speed elsewhere to the point where you don't actually need this. But it's now from 50 to 125. And not to mention, it was capped. It's capped to 200, so that's a completely pointless change here. What the fuck are they doing? All resistance from amulets have been increased from 19 to 25. This is actually, I don't think it actually makes a difference because now we don't have the resistance breakers and the dungeons. And also, especially having in mind, we're gonna focus probably on separate resistance types on the gear, so we can put skulls on the jewelry. So why bother? Probably for some builds which can't generate those. And I don't know, but what I notice is they mainly focus on damage and not on survivability things. So it's mostly because of the softcore players who go full glass cannon without even being in a party, which is the most common mistakes. I mean, one of the most common mistakes in the action RPGs whatsoever. So I don't know. It's like, do those guys even know what they're doing? Single element resistance of rings has been increased from 8 to 10. Same thing. So maybe what we can achieve with this now is to maybe not focus on different resistances on the gear. I'm actually gonna test this probably. So maybe we can only get like all resistance on the chest piece, this affix, and not focus on individual resistances. But what I believe would happen in that case is probably we're gonna have to use gems on the uh, jewelry, like amulet and both rings, to use like different gems to get the resistances, and then we're going to introduce one more problem: capping armor. So maybe what they want to achieve with this is let us cap defenses in different ways, but I'm not sure that's gonna work. We'll see how it plays on 14th of May. Okay, Barbarian. I don't really care about this. Skipping, 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 skipping. Look at how many changes. Right? I hope they nerf it to the ground. Aspect, aspect. Wow. Okay, Azurat. Druid. Totally skipping. That's a lot of skipping. Necromancer. Okay, finally our thing. Enhanced Blight. The tooltip now correctly references the defiled area for the slow effect. Okay, so only the defiled area slows. Blood Mist. Remove the movement speed reduction. Yeah, they should have done actually increased movement speed. Golem. The ability can now be activated while crowd controlled. Activating this ability makes the player unstoppable. Wait. I'm gonna test this because I think it was only for the bone golem. But if this is for all the other golems, that makes the blood mist completely redundant. Because that's what blood mist is actually useful for, to get unstuck. So if this is true, we probably won't need metamorphosis on the boots anymore. So that changes things, right? Just a bit. We're gonna test this when time comes during the season. That's a very interesting approach to things. But now, because of this, maybe cooldown should be needed to make this effective. So probably it's better to rely on metamorphosis with +2 evade charges boots, because like being able to use this like every 20 seconds or so, I don't know, and just the way that metamorphosis works, traveling this distance, that's really good. The only problem I have with it is that we can also take damage while being a bat. Like, let's say it's not like transplant on last epoch, you can't take damage, and you like teleport on the other side when you reappear. But this is totally different, so you have to be careful while using it. But doing it with the golem, that's a new way to do it now. But yeah, I think it was only for bone golem actually. But we'll test for sure. Decompose. That's pretty irrelevant. I think I commented it before. But bonus movement speed duration is increased, at least. Everything else already commented previously, so I guess let's skip. Army of the Dead, increased spawn rate of volatile skeletons. Right. Okay. Now categorized as a summoning skill, so we can increase its damage by summoning damage stuff. That's good. Inspiring leader, that's not new, that it now increases crit chance instead of movement speed, attack speed, I mean. Let's see, counts edict. I'm not taking that. That's actually not new. Right now, your minions gain attack speed for each active minion. Right. This is very useful for bomb prison, if you know what I mean. Book of the Dead, Skeletal Warriors. Let's see what they changed. On the Shadow Mages, the second upgrade has now additional Shadow Bolt fired every 3 attacks, down from 4. Why did they strike this? It was every second attack, it was maybe too much for them. Cold Mages, let's see, Bone Mages. Now, Bone Mages can cast Bone Splinters or Bone Spear. That's crappy. They should have kept the Bone Spear if it's on your action bar. So if I don't have Bone Splinters on my action bar, what? So if I don't have Bone Splinters on my action bar, would they cast only Bone Spear? I guess that remains to be tested. But usually for the high-end stuff, it's a good idea to have the Bone Splinters, or a basic skill in general, because of the aspect of might. So I don't know, we'll test this. And let's see what else here. Looks like we only care about the red text here. Everything else I already commented on before. Bone Golem, let's see, Iron Golem. They didn't say the Blood Golem thing is increased. Okay, they did. Legendary aspect, blood soul aspect. Now, one blood is 4, increase movement speed. Well, yeah, like I said, they should have done that. Not that I use it, I don't care about blood mist at all. I think it's a complete bullshit skill. But, you know. New commander. I don't like minions. I don't like minions at all. And I don't like that the bomb prison is minions. Well, Army of the Dead is active, your minions gain attack speed. Who cares, man? Army of the Dead is active, your minions deal increased damage and take reduced damage. Okay. Cool Dominion, but this is not new. Those are things I already commented on. Let's see the red stuff. Leadless Wall. Yeah, lucky hit chance increased from 5 to 25, from 15 to 30. Well, I think that's too much. We're gonna have barrier all the time. I think it's too much. It was good as it was. Bloodless Scream. That's the most useless sight, right? Essence gain increased. Well, who cares? Let's see, Paragon, what changed here? Dominate. Bonus overpower damage. Yeah, I noticed actually in the PTR it's greatly reduced. I think that's not good. I think that's quite a significant nerf. It's just too much. Look at this, it's like more than double. It was almost 40, right? And now it's almost 15. That's just terrible. Not to mention, like, I would understand if they do that. For example, if Necromancer was a better boss killer than Barbarians, then I would understand that. But now, I definitely don't. Especially having in mind they nerfed the Banished Lord Talisman Amulet. Why are they doing this? I know why they're doing this. Because they have no clue. I don't think that's a good change. I definitely don't approve on this. Let's skip rogue whatsoever. Skipping rogue, skipping rogue. This is still rogue sorcerer, skipping sorcerer. We don't care. Definitely. Loot updates. Let's see. All items drop. Sacred. Ancestral. Yeah, on World Tier 4. Ancestral. That's nothing new here. And the elixir updates. That's pretty good. I think they did a really good job here, simplifying things, right? Because you probably remember seeing me having to farm those awful things, like the plants, just to be able to do gauntlet and stuff. That was just insanely terrible. Let's see, elixir of resource reduced by. Oh, they nerfed it. It was too much. In the Necromancer case, that was really good because the more resource you have, the more damage and the more crit. Especially for the bone build, that was really good. I don't know. I don't know what to say on this. I think that somehow they don't realize what those changes are doing to hardcore players. Or maybe because too many softcore players abuse those things. I don't know. But doesn't feel right. New elixirs of holy bolts. After killing many holy bolts fire from corpse to that enemy. What? I don't remember that. Momentum, increase movement speed. That's really good. That's a gauntlet thing. Yeah, definitely a gauntlet thing. Okay. Let's see the red stuff here. There are now pop-up on the HUD when picking up materials. Why is this stricken? Striked out. Gauntlet? It was trials, now it's gauntlet. Now I have 100% of being rewarded on a unique item. Oh. Oh, so we need to do gauntlet once a week. Okay, no problem. Boss monsters won't drop a shrine if they... What? Boss monsters won't drop a shrine if they have been regenerated by the pure of... Oh, I see. Now they want to make the gauntlet more interesting. I definitely approve of that because now we don't have to really like rely on the shrines too much on the gauntlet. Not that I played it like mostly the first week, and then it kind of sucked. It got too boring too quickly and very demanding on the materials and having to farm a lot, and I just like getting tired of it. It's not something I would do every time in the long run, probably. Not giving a damn. Let's see, Nightmare Dungeon rotation. Oh, they added the Tormented Ruins. This one sucks, basically. Let's see, the Udor's Cave and the Shiroko Caverns, those are the best, XP-wise. And let's see which were the ones for Glyph XP. We care about World Tier 4, right? So, let's see. That's no. No. Blind Burrows, not so much. That's the most terrible dungeon ever. Go Ruins. Okay, Go Ruins works for the glyph leveling, right? Let's see what else. Huh. Guran canals, maybe, but I think there should be at least one more. Why I don't see it? Just Go Ruins, maybe. Okay. Anyway, let's see Misk. Traversal skills such as leap and teleport can now easily travel the distance to go to the edge of the screen. This will improve parity with mouse and keyboard players. Well, I don't know about that because we still have the ultra wide monitor problem, I guess. Especially ultra wide plus mouse and keyboard. It's beyond comparison. Let's see. With ultra-wide monitors, you may not traverse to the edge of your monitor, as traversal abilities affect maximum distance they can travel to. Okay, I'm really glad they solved it. It was quite the thing, I think. Let's see. The bonus experience for World Tiers 2 is now also changed. World Tier 2 increased to 50. Okay. So definitely going straight to World Tier 2 as usual. Oh, see what they did? This is not on the red list. Metallock chest now additionally drop 500 obos. So probably I missed something else here while not reading the red stuff. The option the camera to zoom further has been added. That was there. Crafting materials now have rarities associated with them. Okay. Notification relates to expiration of seasonal stashes have been added. Okay. Search through your stash now supports filtering by item power. Okay, that's good. Drop item can now be used to select and control click on keyboard. The skill tree can now be navigated with the D-pad or controller. Okay, really good changes. Overall readability throughout the game. Okay. So I didn't miss on anything here. I think the previous thing was elixirs, loot, sorcerer. Okay, I didn't miss on anything, looks like. But let's read maybe through these more skills now appear. Visual powers, the game power. Okay. Additionally, existing visual scaling has been improved. Experience rewards from completing dungeon events have been increased. Okay, that's good. Damage overtime effects will no longer interrupt channeled skills. I don't think that's a good idea for PvP, but what do I know, right? Channel times to interactable objects such as picking up bloodstones and activating switches have been adjusted various times of 1-2 seconds down to 0.75, but I think they should have done that to the also the chests, right? And I don't know. Let's see. I mean, on the Helltide torture gifts, but like they said on the developer live stream, I pretty much understand why they didn't do it, because sometimes you might make a mistake, and happens, right? Legendary items, unique items can now be traded. Adam tiers rejoice, right? This only includes unaltered items. Imprinting, enchanting, tampering, or masterworking an item will bind it to your account. Yeah. Mounts can now be spurred in town. That's good. The local PTA has commissioned the town crier to implement scrolls of speeding to no avail. Okay. Glyph experience gains have been increased by 25%. Adam Jackson said this, I think, during the um, developer live stream, right? Flat damage from lucky hit procs can be critical hits, but still cannot overpower. Okay, that's a problem. You know why? Especially because of the blood boils, right? I think it should be able to overpower. I don't necessarily approve on this one. But we'll see how it plays during the season. From what I remember, I'm definitely going to use the blood boils aspect. And I didn't notice that it crits, not to mention overpower. It should overpower. The bonus experience. Okay, I mentioned this already. Nightmare dungeons that have been empty for 2 minutes will now be automatically closed instead of being reset. Let's see why that might be a problem. Let's say you're on hardcore and doing tormented echo boss, right? And you use a scroll of escape, and you have 2 minutes to get back there. That could be a problem. Otherwise, you just lose the materials. Let's see. The gold cap has been increased from 9 trillion to 99 trillion. Yeah, like again, probably a softcore thing. And group thing, especially. Mutter lock chest now additionally drop 500 elbows. Okay, that's good. World boss health has been greatly increased for world tiers 3 and 4. I definitely want to see that, because usually when I go to world bosses, they die in less than 2 seconds. So let's make those interesting again. Increased murmuring oboes maximum capacity from 2000 to 2000. Well, it was never 2000. It was 1000. It was never 2000 before. Even on the PTR, it was 1000. Let's see, accessibility here. Fixed an issue where the screen reader did not identify check marks in the challenge menu. Fixed an issue where the screen reader, it's all screen reader, let's drop it. I don't think we care about this right now. Gameplay, Barbarian, Druid, Necromancer. Fixed an issue where the bonus from the Bone Graph Legendary Paragon node, which should not trigger from damage, could be triggered when enemies were made vulnerable by Enhanced Bone Prison. What? Bone Graph Legendary Paragon node, which increases the essence, right? That's what it does. Increases maximum essence and more damage. So the bomb build is pretty screwed now. I think I know why this is, because it doesn't directly deal damage. But yeah, that's why. Fixed an issue where the bonus movement speed from Death's approach was not active while in town. Yeah, that was actually a thing. That's no comment. Fixed an issue where the Requiem aspect was gaining lower maximum essence per minion than intended. Okay. Fixed an issue where a golem attack initiated right after dismounting